Okay, thank you, everyone. We will get started, and we will call to order this meeting of the Fillmore City Council. Councilmember Garnica, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you.
Right hand over your heart. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we please have a roll call?
Councilmember Brogy? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Mendez?
Here.
Mayor Villaseñor?
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez? Councilmember Garnica?
Okay, thank you very much. And our next agenda item is the approval of our agenda. Can I entertain a motion on that?
So moved.
Okay, I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We have our agenda. And our next item is our presentation from the City of Fillmore pest control efforts at the parks. So welcome, Georgie. Thank you.
Good evening, Council, residents of Fillmore. My name is Georgie Gerardo. I'm a management analyst here for the Public Works Department. I have a quick presentation today on our pest management efforts we've been having here in the city. So a quick overview on the pest management here in Fillmore. Our overall landscape maintenance is managed by Venco Western, and they subcontract wildlife management professionals to do our pest control. All pest control companies and contractors can only offer a 90% control rate, meaning it's really hard to control nature. So that's the most that we can expect from them, and they do provide that. The focus areas are gophers and ground squirrels. I'm sure from one time or another you've got a complaint from someone regarding that. So those are our main focus areas, and they do maintenance every Thursday at key sites, as well as other sites that the contractor sees around town. Here's a list of some of those sites: Rio Vista Parks, Basins, essentially all our parks, City Hall, Chamber Park, and other large landscape areas. Los Serenos, where the firework booth is in the corner usually, that grass area, and other areas like that. And we get a report once a month showing the different levels of activity at the park so we can stay on top of them. Those locations are prioritized due to the visibility to the public, proximity of water, and the open fields. It makes it real vulnerable to pests. So we have been in close communication with Venco to ensure we're using all legal and effective options. California has got real strict with some of the control methods. Methods that were used 2-3 years ago aren't allowed anymore. So it's been a little tough on the contractors to adapt to that. But we are making sure they are using the best methods. Gophers are a lot easier to manage than the ground squirrels. Those are a little bit harder to control. And they're not just special to Fillmore. They're a regional issue that lots of people and other cities encounter. Here's some examples of ground squirrel damage. The first photo where you can see me in there, those are gophers. They're usually just a hole straight down, but the ground squirrels kind of dig a tunnel real deep. Some of the approved control methods in use are gopher gassers. Those are used during the rainy season, and they're essentially a little gas you drop in the hole and it kills the gophers. State-approved bait is used in the dry season. That means it does not have any secondary poisoning. If a squirrel or a gopher eats it and dies and a dog eats it, it's not going to affect the dog. So we are prioritizing the most humane and environmentally responsible methods. Despite restrictions, we're seeing improvement, and we'll continue to refine our strategy. That's it. I'm open to any questions.
Okay, thank you, Georgie, for your presentation. Does council have any questions? No, thank you. I actually just had a comment to make, and this is for everyone here and also everyone listening, is that when you are using the park and you come across gopher holes or squirrel holes, please contact our Public Works department via our website, or any one of us. If you're in contact with us, welcome to. I had someone who's, I think it was a youth soccer game, who right away texted me and sent me photos. They're like, Field 2 at Shields Park has 4 gopher holes and they're fresh. And this, I let the city know, and Public Works addressed it right away. So the more that we are in contact and stay on top of it, get the information, the more that we're able to cover those and make sure that all of our athletes and anyone who's enjoying the parks doesn't run into a gopher hole and could be an injury or something else. So thank you.
Just I had a question about, are you getting any feedback from the vendors about what they might need to improve, or do they feel that they've got a good handle on it?
Yeah, I mean, when issues have came up, for example, at Two Rivers Park, obviously they're doing some work right now, and we've had a lack of water due to the work. They can't really control them when there's no water. They need water to be able to execute their methods. So when, stuff like that comes up, they do reach out to us, let us know what they need. But for the most part, they have a good handle on it.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, our next agenda item is our general public comment session. These are for individuals who'd like to make public comment for items that are not on the agenda. So if anyone is here for a non-agendized item and hasn't yet submitted a comment card, you can submit them over here to Areli. And we do have a couple of general public comments. So our first, and also you have 3 minutes to speak, and when you come up, I'll start the timer, and then I'll let you know with 30 seconds left to go in the 3 minutes. So Heather Sweatman, come on up. Welcome, Heather.
Hi, thank you. I didn't want to be first. My name is Heather Sweatman, and I have 2 topics to briefly talk about tonight. I've been involved with the 4-H groups here in the county for 20 years, 25 years. It's been a long time I've been involved. And when the city sold the property, I don't know if the ramifications on the 4-H kids were looked at. We need about $65,000 to $80,000 to build new pens, build a new facility. I don't know if that was ever brought up, if it was ever discussed, ever thought of. We're in a lot of red tape right now with the state. We wanted to take our old pens and just pick them up and move them, but because they're cemented in and they're pipe corral, the state doesn't want us to do that. Therefore, we have to buy 20 hog pens, 20 lamb pens, 20 steer pens, and all the fencing and gates to go around everything, and then another perimeter gate to go around it. And then some of our sheds and storage areas are dilapidated, and we're going to have to buy new cargo containers or whatever it is to facilitate for the kids to have tack rooms. I'd like this to be put on the agenda next council meeting to see if there's anything that the city can do to help us get through this, whether it's fundraising or some ideas. So I think I'm under my 3 minutes.
Yes, you are. Yes.
Okay.
And did you have another, if you'd like to, let me reset it and we can move on to the next item that you have.
Okay, so.
Yes, and thank you for making us aware of that.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Oh,
well,
it's per speaker, not per agenda topic.
Are you talking about something on the agenda?
No, I'm sorry, no comment.
So your public comment period is 12.
Okay.
got it. And you were basically halfway through.
Oh, perfect.
So we got a minute and a half.
I'm not very talky. So
Okay.
the other topic is the Mario and Vanessa Robledo were going to do I don't know if we want to call it a benefit concert, July 12th, and it had been canceled, whether our permits or whatever the situation is from City Council. They were going to run it through their nonprofit and turn around with that money and not directly donate it back to 4-H because of all the red tape, but buy our pens, some of our pens for us and get us going in the right direction. And now that that has been canceled, that was a huge fundraiser for us. And I'd like the council to reconsider that and look at that to help 4-H out. I know I'm clicking on time here too. We're also, I guess it doesn't matter. 4-H, we're having a casino night at Red Engine on the 21st. Tickets are $35. We're looking for sponsors. I have the sponsor list here in my packet. I would really love to see City Council out there to support us, to show the 4-H kids that you guys have our back in helping us figure out what our next solutions are. Thanks, guys.
And you did it in the time. Thank you, Heather. Appreciate all the comments. Okay, thank you. That was all we had for general public comments, unless we had any more come up. Okay. All right. Moving along then to item number 7. This is our city council, our reports, recommendations, comments, and basically updates about different committees that we sit on. I'm just going to turn to my fellow council members. Do we have any updates to provide? Okay, yes, go ahead.
Sure. Okay. So let me get my notes here real quick. There are several items. So I attended the Rotary 510K. I was part of the Rotary group that helped direct the runners. I saw several city employees out there in the run, so thank you for that support. I also would like to report that we had a record number of runners. We had about 344 runners, and so the money that's raised from that will go towards the Fillmore High School track and field, as well as the cross country, about half of that, and the other half will go back to Rotary. And of course, that Rotary money is going to go into our students and all the scholarship the scholarships that we give away. So that was a great turnout. Also, I attended a meeting on trying to bring civility back to our politics at the Ronald Reagan Library. This was the keynote speakers were Governor Cox of Utah and Governor Lou John Grisham from New Mexico. So, respectively, Cox is a Republican and Lou John Grisham is a Democrat. And they came to talk about what we can do as a society to improve the discussion that we can have to bring civility back into our politics. And one of the key points that I took away from that whole discussion was the change that social media has really had, the impact it's had on our society. Specifically, what they mentioned was if you went back about 40 years ago and you asked Americans, the average Americans, how do you identify yourself as an American? Like, what groups do you identify yourself with? And back about 40 years ago, the top things were like where they live, their sports teams that they loved, things like that, and maybe if they were, in a public service organization. And way down about number 7 was whether or not they were a Republican or Democrat. Today, you can imagine that is not the case. Today, when you ask most Americans how they identify themselves, their tribes that they identify themselves with, number 1 is their party affiliation. So that is really, in their opinion, and I think I agree with this, has really changed the way we look at, when we're talking to someone else from across the aisle, instead of seeing them as, hey, that's Bob from Rotary, and we go and have a barbecue every once in a while. People have a tendency to see it through that lens of, oh, that's a Democrat, or oh, that's a Republican. So, one of the things they said that we can do, and I think Fillmore doesn't have this problem so much because we're a small town, but it still happens, is that they encourage people to get involved in the local civic organizations and involved in like local sports teams and things like that, because building a sense of community has a tendency to bring down the rhetoric and bring down the heat of the conversation. So I thought it was very well worth the effort to go, and I know that Albert, I saw you there, and Christina was going to be there, but unfortunately she had family business going on that could not wait. So that was the second thing. The third thing was I attended the Memorial Day service out at Bardesdale Cemetery on Memorial Day, and they had a flyover by a couple planes and some great speakers. Let's see what else. And then in preparation for the meeting tonight, I want to talk about two quick things. So I was requested to meet with the youth at One Step LFS to talk about, I think it's item 9C, or 9, is it 9C? 9A, I'm sorry, the discussion about the Clean Power Alliance. And they let me know what their position was on the Clean Power Alliance and how they felt. They were very strongly in favor of that, as well as I also met with John Meadows and Marla Di Zavala. They asked me to go to lunch with them. So they kind of presented their opinions about it. And so I did hear some feedback from the constituents about things that are on the agenda. And that's it.
All right, thank you very much, John, for your update. Appreciate it. And Carrie.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to take a tour of the the Santa Clara River, where the Chesapeake Cienega Restoration Project is occurring. And for those of you who are not aware of this, there's a huge endeavor right now to stabilize and improve and create a safe haven for the Santa Clara River, just adjacent here to Fillmore, between the fish hatchery down to the bridges. And several of our city staff joined us on this. I knew it was happening. I'd caught wind of it, and I could see it from a distance from the bike path on the other end of the bridges. But to be able to walk through and to hear all of those that are working so hard on improving this area and making it a safe haven, as I said, for a lot of the birds and animals that are in the area, as well as the plant life. They're moving the non-native plants out and putting in native plants. And I believe when it all is said and done, and that I think they said it'll take a couple more years before it's completed, the paths will be open to the public at that point in time. It's not open to the public now, but it's going to be a huge addition to the community of Fillmore, especially adjacent to the fish hatchery. It'll be a go-to destination where you can bring your kids, bring your binoculars. There's places where you can ride a bike to it, and it'll just be phenomenal. I'm looking so forward to it. I love seeing a project like this in the city of Fillmore. So I encourage all of you to pay attention to the notices that are going out. It's been advertised in the local paper as well as the Star, and just follow along. And once it's open, I think it'll be something that we can all be very, very proud of. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Carrie. Yes, Albert.
Okay, on May 15th, I attended the Ventura County Animal Shelter quarterly meeting, and there's some useful information that was said in that meeting. So June 7th is California Adopt a Pet Day, and also, I didn't know this service was out there, and I think it's a pretty cool service they offer. If you have a pet and you're falling on hard times and you can't afford food or pet supplies, they have a pet pantry that's available, and you could go in and get supplies. And I thought that was pretty cool. I don't have a pet any longer, but thanks to my wife. but I think that's a good service. And also they have if you're looking to adopt a pet, and a lot of times, I know back in the old days, you adopt a pet, and if it had troubles, you're either stuck with it or you take it back. So now they have trainers, and they work with the animals, and then that service is even available after you take the pet home. You can make arrangements with the trainers that the shelter has. So that was a good information that they had, and good services, useful services for the people in our county. And I also attended on the same day the Economic Development Committee meeting. One of the things I took out of that meeting was the broadband initiative that was supposed to happen may not be happening now because of federal funds may not be available for that. So we'll continue to keep an eye out for that and hope that that's not the case, and that there are still funds available for that program. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I also just have a couple of comments, updates. The first is, along with the wonderful Rotary Fillmore High cross-country team, 5K, 10K, great, wonderful participation by so many runners. Right after that, the city, in partnership with Fillmore Unified School District, held what's now our 5th annual Health and Wellness Resource Fair, and it was really great. And we really want to thank the district and the leadership of the district for partnering with the city. It was held on the front lawn there in front of the CESP administrative building, and more than 50 different resources here in Fillmore, across the county, all related in some way to health, wellness, were there and just providing great information. And I want to say it's not too often that we have these resource fairs. I know sometimes, it might be at some local churches, sort of after services on Sunday, there might be some booths that are set up for folks. But this is in Fillmore, I think, one of the few ones where annually we have resources from across the county here to assist our community. So I just want to thank the city for your participation, thank the school district and everyone, including all the organizations who came out and participated. So every year it grows more and more. And then in terms of my meetings, I was able to attend it's a transportation advisory committee. This is something from the county that they're looking particularly at input from different cities, all the cities in the county, I believe, on pedestrian safety as it pertains, bicycle safety as it pertains to our transportation systems. And I thought it was really important that I participate, that Fillmore is represented, because as I pointed out to everyone, is that Fillmore, as we all know, is the one city, except for Ojai, but Ojai's a little different, that has a highway running through the middle of the city. All other cities you're able to get through, you could bypass through our freeway system. Ojai, is a highway, but it's also a 2-lane. You definitely slow down as you go through the middle of the city, right? And it gets a little busy on the weekends. But Fillmore, we have our 4-lane, or really our 5-lane highway that bisects the city of Fillmore. And I really wanted to point out that it makes it very difficult for our residents, our families, to feel safe crossing the highway, walking it or biking it, to go to the south side where we have 2 wonderful parks, and our dog park, our 2 Rivers Park that is, improving, more and more, and of course Rio Vista Park here also as you cross Mountain View. So I'm going to continue to be a part of this group. They just got started. This is like the first of, I think, 5 meetings, and continuing to put that emphasis that we need to see that our unique situation that we have in Fillmore, and the county really needs to look at it and to help us invest dollars in here to improve our bicycle and pedestrian safety as it pertains to the highway that's crossing. So that's my update. Okay, our next agenda item is our consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion here on our consent calendar. Okay, I have a motion. First, do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, first and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And our next agenda item, we will move now into new business, and that is agenda item number 9A, consideration of participation in Clean Power Alliance feasibility study.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
So tonight, staff is seeking direction from the City Council regarding the participation in a feasibility study to explore whether joining the Clean Power Alliance. No formal staff recommendation is being provided. This is a continuation from the April 22nd meeting that we had. This item was on the agenda on that date. And so Council directed staff to conduct additional research, which we did, and to also have Southern California Edison representative here to present a presentation for council. And there were a lot of questions that were received from constituents and also from council members. The answers to those questions were included in the staff report. And then one of the recommendations that council gave to staff was to also reach out to other jurisdictions that are currently members of the Clean Power Alliance. We were tasked to reach out to 5. We did reach out to more than 5, Santa Paula, Ojai, Claremont, Sierra Madre, Moore Park, Calabasas, Agoura Hills, Westlake Village, and La Cañada Flint Ridge. We followed up multiple times by phone and email. We did receive 3 responses from all the jurisdictions that we reached out. And so the summary of the results of the survey that was provided to them included the cost. So the cities did not report any cost savings since joining the CPA. The costs remain approximately the same. They didn't expect any unexpected cost or staffing impacts. The resident feedback was mixed. So some residents appreciated the change, while others found it to be a bit confusing for the enrollment process. The transition process, 2 of the 3 cities indicated that the transition was smooth with minor issues, and 1 reported that it was somewhat challenging but manageable. The duration with the CPA, 2 cities out of the 3 have been with the CPA for over 5 years, and the other city had been from 2 to 3 years with the CPA. Challenges identified was the public outreach and communication, bilingual and technical integration issues, and how challenges were addressed. There was public education campaigns and establishing direct points with the CPA, but overall they expressed that they were happy with the excellent customer service that they had received from the CPA. So we provided a very structured survey to make sure that we could account for the data and present that in the staff report. So that concludes the introduction. I have Natalie Yanes with Southern California Edison. She's our government affairs representative, and she will be presenting tonight information from Southern California Edison. We also have representatives from the Clean Power Alliance, so if you have any questions after her presentation, those can be addressed to them as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Erica, and welcome, Natalie.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me tonight. I will start off by just a few thank yous as well. I also attended the Health and Wellness Fair representing Southern California Edison. We had a great time, so thank you for inviting us out to participate in that. I know that we just offered a few local government briefings on our PSPS and wildfire mitigation efforts. If you were able to attend, thank you. If not, I will be sending out the slide deck this week, so check your inbox for more information. And on that PSPS note, I do want to thank the city for being a great partner of ours and opening up the Adult and Community Center for a location for our community resource centers where residents here from Fillmore and from the surrounding communities can come and engage with Edison employees and ask questions about PSPS and receive information about the services and programs offered during PSPS and during other times as well. So just those few thank yous before I jump into my presentation.
Natalie, I know that most of us probably know what PSPSs are,
Yeah.
but just for clarification for the audience,
Sorry.
could you please?
Yes, PSPS is Public Safety Power Shutoffs, and that is during the high wind events when the fire conditions are elevated and the wind is blowing, where we do shut off the power preventatively as a safety measure. Yes, thank you. Okay. There we go. Okay. Wonderful. So just a little bit about Southern California Edison. I think I've shared this before, so I won't go into much detail. But we service 5 million customer accounts, which equates to about 15 million customers themselves. 50,000 square miles is our service area. In that, roughly a third of that is high fire or considered high fire risk area, which does incorporate much of Ventura County as well. When it comes to SCE in the city of Fillmore, we have a franchise agreement in place with the city, and with that, we provide the city an annual franchise payment for the ability to perform routine work within the city limits. So last year for 2024, that amount was $135,000 roughly. In addition to that, we have 61 employees who call Fillmore home. Many of them probably working either out of our Ventura office or our Valencia office, or could be even traveling a little bit further beyond those to the other locations. Customer-wise, we have over 1,000 business customers and just under 5,000 residential customers. I know the CARE customer count was of question in a previous meeting, and just to reiterate, CARE is the California Alternative Rates for Energy. Roughly 1,800 customers here in Fillmore are currently subscribed as a CARE customer, receiving roughly up to 32% off their Edison bill. There is also the FAIR FARA, which is the Family Electric Rate Assistance Program. Although those numbers aren't depicted here on the slide, currently there are 51 customers enrolled in the FARA program, which is about an 18% discount off their electric bills. When it comes to support of the community and beyond, we are active members in the Tri-County Chamber Alliance. I serve as a board member there. CoLab, which is the Coalition of Labor, Agriculture, and Business. Association of Water Agencies of Ventura County, we are members of, as far as the agencies go, or the organizations supporting the community. When it comes to the nonprofits, we support the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Clara Valley, I should say, including the site here in Fillmore. Weave, Women Economic Ventures, Ventura County Community Foundation, CSUCI, El Concilio Family Services, and more. This is just a brief list of the organizations that we support here. And my last slide before I hop right into our CCA information, I know there were some questions about the Edison rates and, in fact, rate increases. So the top portion of this slide breaks down the dollar. So 4% of an Edison bill dollar goes to our public purpose programs, 10% to wildfire, 11% to taxes, 6% to transmission, 26% to distribution, and that is the infrastructure itself. And then 43% is the power supply. You can also see there, and I don't think it was a question, but it is noted here, and I will highlight that less than 20% of the power supply that SCE sells is actually generated by SCE. The bottom portion, although not a true comparison to CPA rates, it is a comparison to the inflation rate. Historically, our rates tend to trend with the inflation rate, with the exception of the last 5 years where it did it rose above the inflation rate. We are working very hard at Edison to bring that rate down, and as you can see, the projected rates trend more with the inflation rate, and that has been a strong focus of SCE, is the affordability of electricity. With that, I'll hop into our the main portion of the presentation today. Edison follows the CCA Code of Conduct as the decision from the PUC stands, which is we are very neutral. We don't take a side as long as a CCA is treating our customers fairly, as in ensuring the grid remains intact. We are very neutral when it comes to a community choice aggregator. From our perspective, again, as long as the customers are all treated fairly and grid reliability and the safety are preserved, then we have a neutral stance. From Edison, we do not make any money off the sale of electricity. We, like a clean or a community choice aggregator, go out and purchase contracts with various generators. And as I mentioned earlier, we do generate a small portion of what we put on the grid ourselves. And so on top of that, we don't upcharge the rates. It is a true pass-through to the customer as they use the energy. The way it works, CCA will source energy. It's put onto the grid through Edison distribution. It is distributed to the customer, and the end user uses that electricity. An Edison bill does, through the agreements with CCAs, the customer receives one bill, an Edison bill. We work with the CCA to include the charges from that organization onto the Edison bill. So this is just an example. It may look a little bit different when customers actually receive their bill, but essentially it'll have lines for Edison charges and a line for a CCA charge. This all stems, and I apologize if this is a duplicate from the information you've already received, but post-California energy crisis, communities got together and legislation was passed to provide consumers with an alternative. So AB 117 authorized the creation of CCAs back in 2002. And the PUC, I'm sorry, and I should clarify, I use a lot of acronyms. The California Public Utilities Commission does have jurisdiction over CCAs, as it does with SCE. A little bit more jurisdiction over an investment-owned utility like SCE, but they certainly have jurisdiction over CCAs as well. One thing I would like to note, too, is that CCA customers are responsible for the power charge and difference adjustment, the PCIA, which ensures that customers staying with the IOU do not bear the cost of the customers leaving. So when we purchase generation contracts, they are multi-year, possibly multi-decade contracts. And those costs are set in place. And so when customers do leave, there is a cost difference there. And so the power charge and difference adjustment is put in place to ensure that the customers staying as a bundled customer with SCE do not incur additional costs because other customers choose to leave.
Question on that one. So
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that, that's a really important point that I think we need to make sure that is clear to the public. So let me see if I understand what you're saying on that slide. What you're saying is SCE has committed long-term, multi-year contracts at a given energy rate, and those are obviously to get the best rates available. Obviously, because if you buy energy for 1 year versus 10 years, you're going to get a volume discount on the 10-year rate, right? So those 10-year contracts are going to exist whether or not people continue to buy energy from SCE or they buy it from the Clean Power Alliance, right?
Correct.
Okay, and so then because those costs are real and you've incurred them, somebody has to pay for those costs. And what this graph is saying is, hey, those costs are fixed. This assures that SCE is made whole, and the way that you're made whole is by passing that on to the ratepayers, right?
It's being passed on
through a special rate.
not to the way I understand it is the customers leaving, there is an additional charge, this power
Yes.
charge and difference for the customers who choose to leave. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure we're clear on that point.
Yes.
Thank you.
I know there were some questions about SCE and our green rate and where we are. SCE is very committed to clean energy, and that is noted in both our countdown to 2045 and our Reaching Net Zero, which is our latest white paper. I do have packets for each of you with the documents that I'm talking about today. So the breakdown of the rates, our countdown to 2045, as well as Reaching Net Zero, our latest white paper. Just print it out. It's easier for you to reference than having to go search for it online or click a link through an email. So I have that all printed out for you. But we are very committed to clean energy. Obviously, our countdown to 2045 white paper is really a conversation piece to talk about how we are going to reach the state goals. SCE is one player. We all have to take a part in ensuring that if we are going to reach carbon neutrality by 2045, we all step up to the plate. So our countdown to 2045, and again, our newest white paper, Reaching Net Zero, are really conversation starters. There are multiple players that are part of this in order to reach those goals, but we certainly are committed to clean energy, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So the latest data that I have available is 2023, and the SCE power mix is as shown below for 2023. So when it comes to clean energy, roughly 38% of the energy that Edison is putting onto the grid is considered clean, and when you add in large hydro and nuclear energy, that number increases to 52. And I apologize, I thought I had written it down in my notes, but this is small increase, I want to say roughly 5% from the presentation I did last year. So every year, our energy that SCE is securing or generating ourselves is getting cleaner. And part of it is the contracts do expire. We go out, rebid, and get cleaner energy at a lower cost, hopefully as well. But the energy continues to be cleaner as we go out to procure it. And this information is available. I pulled it straight from the California Energy Commission website. So various programs that are out there to help customers go green. There are certainly a lot of incentives. One, I will just share a little bit more detail. The pre-owned EV incentive rates for customers looking to purchase or lease a pre-owned electric vehicle, they can apply for or up to $4,000 in rebates. So just another incentive out there to encourage folks to consider green or energy efficient ways of life. I know there was quite a bit of discussion about our green rate, so I do want to highlight that just a little bit. The green rate is closed. That was green energy, 100% green energy that was procured and quickly subscribed to, and that program did close very quickly and has had a waiting list since. We are currently waiting on the California Public Utility Commission guidelines and decision of what the next phase of the green rate program will be, which should be a modified green rate program. But until that decision comes through, we are not able to process or move forward with a green rate program. And I'll just wrap up by saying, it's more than just the green rate program or the day-to-day services. SCE and Edison International, our parent company, are very dedicated to our community and the environment. It shows here on the slide, 26% of the 20 million grants that we awarded in 2023 went to environment. And you can see there the other breakdowns when it comes to public safety, civic engagement, and education. In addition to that, we have our Edison Scholars Program. We award 30 high school seniors every year for the last 20 years with a $50,000 scholarship. We have multiple recipients here from Ventura County. We also encourage support of the industry through our Line Workers Scholarship Program, encouraging folks into the trade and providing financial assistance there as well. And with that, I kept it pretty short. I know that there was a lot of discussion during the previous meeting last month, so here to answer any additional questions.
Okay. Thank you, Natalie, for your presentation. I do have a question, and it's one of the things in the staff report asked about the community programs that SEC offers, and I think the question that was asked was if the change were to be made and Fillmore resident became a customer of CPA, that they still have a lot of access to those. But I'm not sure if it really got into information details of particularly things like the critical care battery backup and other things. So I guess it varies. It could have some access. I don't know if you had any more information on some of these community programs that SEC offers, because again, would still be Edison customers in some way.
I certainly would encourage customers to verify with Edison to confirm their specific programs that they either are enrolled in or looking to enroll in. But kind of the rule of thumb is if you are paying into the program, you'll receive benefits. So for instance, and again, not available right now, but the green rate program, if you're not if you're not paying into the program, then you're not going to receive the benefit. So more or less, probably all the programs will remain the same for a customer, but I would definitely suggest for specific customers who have that concern for them to contact Edison to verify that information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have any questions from our council members? Natalie? All right. Nope. Okay, thank you.
I will just leave these.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, and we do have a number of public comments on this item, so I just wanted to pull that up. Oops. Sorry, it's on my agenda. Okay. All right. Let's see here. We haven't received any more on item 9A. Nope, okay, all right. So our first speaker is Lynn Edmonds. And again, you'll have three minutes to speak, and then I'll let you know when your last 30 seconds. So, thank you. Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you. Again, my name is Lynn Edmonds, and I live at 248 4th Street. And I've been following this for a long time, and I'm very interested in it. I heard when we discussed it previously, the city discussed it previously, we went into deep research on it, and there was a lot of talk by Edison about all the things that we would get, and I never did get them. I applied for everything. I tried to get any help. I never did. But my husband and I put in 2017, we have 12 solar panels, and we use very little electricity, and I have never received money back from that. I only pay $12 a month just to be hooked up, or $15 now I think it is. So I have a very low electricity bill, but I'm generating a lot more electricity for Edison than my electricity bill. So, and I have yet to, it tells me how much I have coming, but then I never get it. And when I call up, I've had a terrible time reaching people. Maybe now it's better. I haven't tried in the last 2 years because I had so much difficulty prior. I know change is hard, and there's always a sense in it. Will it work? Will it not work? What's going to happen if I jump off the Southern Colorado for Edison? I like how they do their format. I know how to read the paperwork. But I think if the city council had decided at that time to do it, we would have easily paid back the $10,000 by the cost reduced. And the issue is, yes, maybe we have to pay a little as you leave, but in the long run, each person will gain the money. It will reduce, and it will be all clean. So those are my perceptions of it, and I'm strongly in favor of it, and I have been for a long time. And I've tried to support Edison to the best of my ability, and I have not been able to. And I know that there are quite a few people that live here that work for Edison, and I would understand how that might feel threatening to one. But it sounds like still have the job, because they're still going to be running the lines and doing the work, and there will be, they're the ones that are a part of that. So I don't see that would hurt the employees. So, and that's it. Oh, one thing that is not on the agenda, I'm sorry about that, but you did bring it up about the river. And I would love to see the redoing the river paths.
I'm sorry, Lynn. On that, we just have to speak only on agenda
I
items.
wanted to have a bird festival.
Come on back to the next meeting on June 10th for general public comment. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Okay, our next speaker on this item is Daniel Gonzalez. Okay, welcome, Daniel.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. My name is Daniel Gonzalez again. I'm a lifelong Fillmore resident. I live in 739 Edison Lane. I'm here tonight to express my strong support for the city of Fillmore conducting a feasibility study to explore joining the Clean Power Alliance and participating in the region's Community Choice Energy program. Joining CPA would be one of the most impactful steps in our city that our city can take to reduce carbon emissions while giving Fillmore residents a real choice where their energy comes from, including the option to be 100% renewable for homes and businesses. This program empowers residents who care about sustainability to opt for greener energy without facing additional costs. And I pay the energy bill at my home, so I'd be glad to pay it. As other presenters have mentioned or has mentioned in the past presentation, CPA's rates are comparable to and often lower than those offered by Southern California Edison. And importantly, residents will still have the freedom to opt out and remain in with their current provider if they choose. I also want to acknowledge that Edison has provided critical support for our community during wildfires and blackouts, and I trust that they will continue to do so like any other corporation would that truly cares about their clients. However, tonight's discussion is not about what Edison will or won't do. It's about local control, cleaner energy, and building a healthier future for Fillmore. So I respectfully urge the City Council to support moving forward with this feasibility study and give our city the opportunity to be part of a more sustainable, community-driven energy solution. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, our next speaker is, Fabiola Gomez. welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. My name is Fabiola Gomez. I am a resident of Santa Paula, but I'm here supporting One Step a la Vez and Climate First Replacing Oil and Gas, also known as CFROG, to ask the Fillmore City Council to choose to take the Clean Power Alliance feasibility study. At the last City Council meeting, which I was also in attendance of, there was a presentation and discussion about the possibility of joining the CPA. It was noted that council members wanted to learn more and speak with residents and neighboring communities about the pros and the cons of making this transition. I sincerely hope that these conversations have taken place beyond the city reaching out to other ones. Because as a resident of Santa Paula, a city already part of the CPA, I can confidently say that there are significant benefits to joining. Excuse me. Not only does CPA offer 100% renewable generated electricity to residents and businesses, it also has more competitive and better prices and services. Having One Step a la Vez actively present, I believe is the right tone to mention that there is so much promise and opportunity for young people in our community. CPA offers programs like Residents Resilience Center, electric vehicle infrastructure funding, resilience and grid management, green workforce development, and more. As one of the growing cities in Ventura County, in a community that cares about sustainability, equity, and long-term planning, these are exactly the kinds of opportunities we should be embracing. With that, I hope that you all choose to do the feasibility study. And thank you for your time, your consideration, and your embracement of change.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next speaker is Melissa Munoz. Okay, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Make sure you speak into, there you go.
Good evening, Mayor Villaseñor and council members. My name is Melissa Munoz. I work with a local grassroots organization, Climate First Replacing Oil and Gas, better known as CFROG. And my comment today is regarding item 9A. As a young constituent of this unique county, I believe that there is no other reasonable alternative for Fillmore but to opt into the region's Community Choice Energy CPA. Allow Fillmore to be the last remaining city to opt in and make the most sensible decisions regarding climate change initiatives alongside the rest of Ventura County. Sustainability efforts made attainable to all, and most importantly, to low-income communities, are broadly impactful and fair. Allowing every resident of Fillmore to opt in or out on their own is a no-brainer. Accessible in every way, and most importantly, by being competitively affordable. As we know, Community Choice Energy offers an alternative electricity supply to the utility monopoly of Southern California Edison, making it more attainable and convenient for not only Fillmore's residents, but also its thriving businesses. And another significant benefit is that CPA reinvests directly into the community that it serves, providing so many more opportunities as previously stated. In fact, 35 communities comprising roughly 3 million residents, along with their businesses, contribute to CPA. Ventura County is known to be the fastest warming county in lower 48 states, as well as the most disproportionately affected due to the harmful actions of the oil industry. Fillmore should take this hopeful leap and join the CPA for the betterment of its residents' health, economy, and a greener Fillmore. We urge you to make the right choice for your constituents and vote yes on conducting a feasibility study. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Brooke Balthasar. Okay, welcome.
Good evening, Fillmore City Council. My name is Brooke, and I am the Community Organizing Manager at Climate First Replacing Oil and Gas, or CFROG. CFROG is a Ventura County-based advocacy organization leading a just transition away from fossil fuels to protect our health, economy, and climate. I am here to urge the City of Fillmore to vote yes on conducting the feasibility study for the Community Choice Energy Clean Power Alliance program. Fillmore is the only city in Ventura County that has not yet joined this program, which is one of the biggest actions a city can take to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. Being the fastest warming county in the lower United States, we are disproportionately impacted by the devastating effects of climate change, which are projected to increase more and more each year unless we take action. But by choosing to join the Clean Power Alliance, the City of Fillmore would help to mitigate the impacts of climate change by supporting the transition to clean energy. It is also worth noting that according to the City of Fillmore's 2025 legislative platform, specifically items 6A, 6B, and 6E, the city has established goals around clean energy programs and efforts to provide Fillmore residents with alternative energy sources and energy savings programs. You have an opportunity today to help the city meet these legislative goals by voting in support of CPA. Beyond this, community choice energy agencies like Clean Power Alliance reinvest their profits right back into the communities that they serve. Like others have stated, this could look like EV infrastructure, community solar, green workforce development, and more. Additionally, according to 2024 Impact Report data, CPA contracted for 769 megawatts of new battery storage capacity and 48 megawatts of new renewable energy, building the resilience of our electricity grid. By increasing grid resilience and reliability, Fillmore would likely see a decrease in PSPS events. Moreover, these add up to over $37 billion in investments to build and operate these resources, and could support the creation of more than 36,000 construction jobs that Fillmore residents could benefit from. With this in mind, the benefits of joining the Community Choice Energy Clean Power Alliance program become clear. Please vote yes in support of conducting this feasibility study for this important program. Fillmore residents should not be left out. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and our next speaker on this item is Jennifer Hernandez. Okay, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Villaseñor and council members. My name is Jennifer Hernandez. I am an Associate Policy Director with CAUSE, the Central Coast Alliance United for Sustainable Economy. We're a base-building organization committed to social, economic, and environmental justice for working class and immigrant communities across the Central Coast. I'm commenting tonight to advocate that Council authorize the funds for the city to participate in the feasibility study to join the Clean Power Alliance. Joining CPA would make sustainable energy more affordable and accessible for Fillmore residents, including myself. The Power Share program gives low-income households who are on CARE or FARA an additional 20% discount on their bill, and it provides them 100% renewable energy. They also have a program that helps low-income homeowners access solar and backup batteries at discounted rates, ensuring that more households in our community are resilient to blackouts and public safety power shutoff events. Additionally, community choice energy agencies like Clean Power Alliance reinvest profits into their communities. CPA has an established community advisory committee, which a Fillmore community resident would be able to participate in and would be able to influence how those funds are reinvested. Last, participating in community choice programs that source renewable energy help California move away from dependence on polluting fossil fuel sources. The more clean energy we can source in our region, the more resilient homes in our neighborhoods, the less we need to keep relying on aging, polluting gas-fired power plants. In our neighboring communities like Oxnard, historically the site of 3 coastal power plants and where asthma rates are some of the highest in our state. Bringing CPA to our city will be an opportunity for residents, homeowners, and renters alike, and especially lower income households to participate in the clean energy economy and actively shape what benefits we want to see come to our community. I'd also like to add, taking my cause hat off, that I've been a resident of Fillmore for over 10 years, and I would love to see Fillmore realize the benefits that CPA could bring. As a renter and an electric vehicle owner, the option to source green energy for my home and my fuel source is important to me. I may not be able to put solar panels on my roof, but with CPA I can still contribute to reducing emissions by sourcing greener energy, and I can save money while I'm doing it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Our next speaker, we still have another speaker on this item, is Natalie Johnston. Okay, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Natalie Johnston, and I'm a lifelong resident here of Fillmore, and my notes got messed up. Fossil fuels are devastating our planet, and I believe that those of us here in Fillmore deserve a choice in determining where our energy comes from. Climate change is no longer a scenario that may affect some theoretical future generation. It's impacting all of us right now. Carbon emissions are responsible for ocean acidification and rising sea levels, air pollution, exacerbated heat and dryness, especially here in California where wildfires are already a constant concern. We can't afford to proceed like this. Globally, we need to phase out the use of fossil fuels as quickly as possible and refocus our efforts on clean, renewable energy sources. What we can do here today is to allow the people of Fillmore to determine where their power comes from in their individual homes. If they choose not to join the Clean Power Alliance, they can stay with Edison. The alternative is forcing everyone to stay with Edison, whether they would like to or not. I therefore ask that you please move forward with this feasibility study and allow those of us in Fillmore to the choice to pursue a safer, greener future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, those are all the public comments that I have on this agenda item. Is there any other public comment? Nope. Okay, so now it's up for us for council to have a discussion. Anyone like to kick it off? I know I've got a few comments I'd like to make. Okay.
I have a question for Clean
okay.
Power Alliance.
For Clean Power Alliance, yes, we have two representatives here. We have actually their CEO is here, Mr. Bernanke.
I have a question. So
actually, can we call him over to the mic? Okay, thank you.
are there any statistics that show the percentage of people who move into Clean Power Alliance and move back after to Edison? What's that percentage?
Yeah, so we talk about that in terms of participation rate. So how many eligible customers stay with Clean Power Alliance? Across our over 1 million customers, it's about a 93% participation rate. So 7% of the eligible customers go back to Edison. 93% stay with us across the service territory. Some cities are in the 97% range. Some cities are, mid, high 80s. But if you look at across all the service territory, it's 93%.
And one more question.
Yeah.
If a city decides to go with Clean Power Alliance,
Yeah.
they're automatically moved into the tier that the city chooses, right? Elects to go into. Are there any possibilities of flipping it and the city elects to go into Clean Power Alliance, but they don't automatically go into Clean Power Alliance and switch to go into Clean Power Alliance after?
Yeah, so the way the state law is set up is that it is an automatic enrollment system. If you want to stay with Edison, you have to opt out. The reason there's the default rate, which is what you referred to, there's a default rate that the city would select, is that we need to know, we Clean Power Alliance need to know what rate to put people on if they don't make a choice. So if they just say, I'm good with this, I'm not going to choose one of the 3 rates, we need to know what to, and that would be, should you do the feasibility study and should you end up joining, that would be a subsequent decision that you would make. If I may, I had two other comments in sort of complement to the presentation that Edison made. So first of all, I really appreciate that you had them here. And like they are neutral on CAs, we really see it not as a competition, but as a partnership. When a customer is a Clean Power Alliance customer, they don't stop being a customer of Edison. And we rely on them for so many things. It wouldn't, our service wouldn't be able to exist without them. So I think one of the things that I just want to dispel is this is not, we compete on some things, but we really compete on what offerings we're providing to individual customers. We have policy disagreements sometimes, but on a day-to-day basis, we work very, very, very closely together to make sure that the customer gets the reliable service that they deserve. And then the second thing, because Councilmember Rodriguez, you brought it up, sorry. Garnica, I apologize. Around the PCIA, Edison did describe the PCIA correctly. It fluctuates every year. For the past 2 years, it's actually been negative. So that because the value of the contracts is actually higher than the price they originally paid for it. Sometimes it's positive. But every time the PCIA changes, we accommodate that in our bill comparisons. So we might raise our rates or lower our rates depending in the opposite direction of the PCIA. So in all of our bill comparisons and everything, we're always including the charge or the credit that the PCIA provides. I just wanted to provide that additional because it's not always a charge and we're always adjusting depending on whether it's positive or negative. Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Another question. It might be for this might be for Natalie. On the billing, when you get billed, I was familiar with Clean Power Alliance at our work. We switched over in 2019, I think. So is the bill still 2 lines on one for Edison? You see your bill, and then I think it's below it. I forget what the bill looks like. Is the charge for Clean Power Alliance?
It should be. There was kind of a graphic or an image in the presentation. Our billing changes periodically, so it may not look exactly like it was presented today. But yes, it's clearly identified on the monthly bill what our Edison charges, Southern California Edison charges, and what our CCA or is
so it's
Clean
still
Power Alliance charge.
it's still the same, and it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So customers are not going to get 2 separate bills. They'll just get one bill from Edison reflecting the Clean Power Alliance charge. Right?
That's right.
And it's very, very distinct, and you can clearly see what's Edison, what's Clean Power Alliance.
The main bill, like that first page, there are those 2 line items, and then electricity bills can get long. Usually it's like page 4 or 5. There's a whole page dedicated just to Clean Power Alliance where we put customer notices, but we also detail much more charges than just those line items. Edison also has a similar page in its bill. So, for the customer who's looking at their bill, it's pretty clear which is which.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I think we have a few more questions. Both of you might want to stay on your feet. Okay, I know Carrie got, and John, if you have a couple too. Okay, go ahead. Oh, go ahead, John.
Okay, so my question has to do, I got several questions from constituents about the survey, the $10,000. People were saying, hey, why is it $10,000? We're asking to join this club, and we're paying $10,000 to join this club, and there's no guarantee, but supposedly, everyone that's asked to join has joined. So there was a little bit of pushback about, the $10,000 fee. So my question really has to do with what we get out of that $10,000. So I think I understand, hey, you guys have to do a feasibility. This is not like, hey, we're going to flip the switch tomorrow and suddenly we're buying clean energy. You have to plan for it. You have to put in long-term contracts, et cetera, et cetera. But my question really has to do more with looking at these are public funds that we're potentially going to expend. Are the results of that survey, are those also going to be made public so that people can, if they're concerned about, hey, what did we spend this $10,000 on, can they see what we spent that money on?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. So we will do a study that will determine a couple of things at the base level. I mean, we have to get every single customer data. We have to learn all about the customer traits. There's actually 3 things we're really looking at. The first is, can we offer competitive rates? We Clean Power Alliance want to know that, but I think you all and your constituents want to know that. You don't want to go into this just on our historic record, but which we've always been able to offer the competitive rates, but on the historic record, we also want to look forward and say, are there particular things about the customer base in Fillmore, the energy usage, just to make sure. So that's the first thing. We want to make sure that we're able to offer the same 3 rate products, lean, clean, and 100% green, particularly 100% green. You heard from public comment that many people want that choice. We want to make sure that there's enough available in the market for us to procure so that we live up to that promise as well. So it's really for us to tell our board, but also to tell you that we can live up to those commitments of providing the choice at a competitive rate. The third thing, this is a little bit more in the weeds, but there are certain communities that have specific interesting loads. As Port Hueneme is joining, there's the port. When La Cañada Flintridge is joining, there's the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. We need to know as we're planning, because whether that particular type of customer stays with us or opts out is an important consideration for us to be able to offer those competitive rates. So it's really due diligence on both sides to make sure that we're not going to put any risks on our organization, and that we're able to meet the commitments that we're making publicly about offering the 3 choices at competitive rates.
Okay, and just a quick follow-up question. Can you tell me, so I think I have a rough idea, but maybe you can put a little bit more detail on this, about what percentage of the total load that you currently carry would Fillmore represent? So in other words, is it 5%, 10%? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, it would be hard-pressed to say that it would be more than 2%.
Wow.
We are the 3rd largest electricity provider in the state of California. So we have some very large cities. So one of the things that I'll note is at Clean Power Alliance, in our governance structure, we didn't take the approach that, say, MWD does, where there's a weighted vote system, where 1 member, 1 vote. So Ojai has the same voting power as the County of Los Angeles. And so we don't sort of discriminate based on the amount of load, but it would, I venture to guess it's somewhere around 1% of additional load for us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right, and Carrie, yes.
Yeah, following up on the $10,000, I'm still confused by this. It sounds to me as though, well, let me ask this first.
Yeah.
How long has that $10,000 fee been applicable? How long have you been charging that to your potential customers?
Yeah, so that's been every city that has considered since 2019. So we launched with 31 cities, and they were not charged a fee. They were part of the initial cohort. That was the County of Los Angeles paid for that because it's as part of our startup loan. We added 1 city, Westlake Village, right when we started. We did not charge them a fee, but they were in because essentially they missed a deadline in that first big 31-member cohort. Ever since then, any city that has considered has had the fee.
Yeah, I'm still confused by it, though. Wondering, it sounds to me, though, that any agency or corporation or what have you that approaches a municipality and says, we can provide, this service ABC to you, but you need to pay us X number of dollars. And I posed this question at our last presentation, how many were turned down? 0. So I still feel as though what you're asking, the $10,000, is, lack of a better description, pocket money for you, for the CPA. And I just don't think it's fair to request that a community pay for a study when ultimately the outcome's going to be, yes, you're accepted into our program. Fillmore, I know you're aware of this. We're not flooded with a whole lot of dollars in our pockets, and $10,000 is a whole lot of money. I can think of a million things that we could spend that on that would go towards parks and recs, the youth. And so I struggle on that. So if you want to clarify more on that and convince me that there's a reason for the 10,000, I'm listening.
Yeah. Well, I can only tell you what, I don't know if it's going to convince, but I'll just provide a little bit more context. So the staff time for us that it takes does cost more than $10,000 to do the, acquire the data from Edison, do that, figure it out with our board. And I will say that I think some of what is involved in the fee is to understand that this is something that you all want, and it's not like we're making money off of this. I think it's really about making sure that our costs, or some of our costs, and our organization is protected.
All right. I mean, it would almost make more sense to me if you had started out when you were launching the CPA that you were charging $10,000, and then that would make your comment about making money or paying for your services on doing the research. That would make more sense. But you have how many different cities now just within Southern California? We're
serving 35 right now, and we'll be up to 38 in October.
Okay, so 38, and Fillmore potentially could be your 39th.
Correct.
I don't know. I'm just really uncomfortable with that $10,000. And then also with regard to the true benefits.
Councilmember Brogy, are you asking for a discount?
I'm asking for a huge discount. I mean, if we, as a matter of fact, that raises a good point. When this was first brought to council, when I was on council previously, and we voted it down, said no. If we'd have voted just at that point in time, we wouldn't have had to pay $10,000. So now here we are, fast forward 7 or 8 years, and now we have to pay $10,000 to participate. That doesn't sit well with me.
I was just going to say, Carrie, that I think what Mr. Bernanke was explaining was the having the buy-in and the skin of the game of Fillmore really seriously considering CPA and doing the analysis of the load. And I think the cost, I think Mr. Bernanke said the cost is actually more, and it's just the feasibility study. It's not yet come back to council of this, this is what it results in. And Fillmore, would you, now that we've done this analysis, would you like to be a member? So we're not at that point yet, but there is significant costs. I mean, more than $10,000 to even to consider.
And I understand your point.
Okay.
But I do not anticipate that we will pay the $10,000. They'll do the feasibility study, and they're going to come back and say, explain the results of the feasibility study, and we as the council are going to say, well, no, we really don't want it now. That's not going to happen. So this is $10,000 we're handing over. And write a check, here it goes, and we'll end up in the same place regardless. I'd like to end up in that same place and keep that $10,000 in our pocket. But then a couple other questions.
Yeah.
A couple other questions I had with regard to the actual comparison of the energy savings, the energy benefit that the CPA provides versus what Edison is providing. That's one question. I mean, I'd like to hear, a real clear comparison as to, how much more clean energy is the CPA providing versus, and then the second question, well, I'll let you enter that one first.
Okay, yeah, sure. So if we do apples to apples 2023 with the data shown up there, which is 38 renewable and an additional percentage of green at 52. So in 2023, we were 75% renewable, and an additional 15% carbon-free on top of that. So we were about 90% on a portfolio-wide basis of in the same apples to apples.
Clean energy.
Correct.
Okay. It's funny you say apples to apples because that's exactly what I wrote down. What our report said specifically was that 38% of Edison was green, and then rose to 52% if you added the hydro and nuclear to it, while the only clear number that I saw in our report was that 14 billion pounds of reduced carbon since 2018. And that's where I thought, okay, we're comparing apples to apples. Apples to oranges, and I prefer to see apples to apples. So,
so the 38% renewable are apples to apples on that is we're 75, and then we have an additional 15% of large hydro and nuclear
that
on top of it.
I have another question, and it eludes me, but I'll loop. Okay. And I'll come back to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Was there any more particular questions for either Natalie or Ted?
No, my comment was going to be kind of a smart comment, Carrie, in that you guys, you were really leading yourself down the path here when you said that the council could have done it for free a few years ago. I'm just going to leave that there, Carrie. You can think about that what you will, but boy, you guys had an opportunity there.
Yeah, except that, well, I understand your point.
Yeah.
If we'd have done it then, we wouldn't be here today. Well,
yeah. We've had the Fillmore has had an opportunity. He has, but here we have this opportunity still before us, and I'm really glad that we do.
Yeah, we can't go back. We can only go forward.
Yeah,
right?
that's true. That's true. So I just want to make a couple of comments. I want to thank Natalie and thank Mr. Ted Bernanke, and of course for Karen for being here again today, and for just supplying us with so much information, right? That we really feel that decisions we make are, that we have the information that we need to make those decisions. And, I also appreciate the comments around that this is that Edison feels very neutral regarding the, community choice aggregates, and that this is a symbiotic relationship that that you have, that Edison has with all 38, hopefully 39 jurisdictions. And again, we have the distribution, we have CPA, and again, I was really happy to hear that these programs, community benefit programs that are with Edison are accessible to Clean Power Alliance customers for the most part, hopefully almost everything, and that on its own, Clean Power Alliance has their list also, like you said, of these community benefit programs, particularly, and again, this is particularly for Fillmore, around solar battery backup, around critical battery backup, that I think is just super, super important and of a need here, in our community in particular. I think I spoke up at our last meeting and just want to say again, having choice for our customers, for our residents, I think is very important, and that's something that I really want to hone in on. Is that Edison? This isn't an either or. We have Edison currently, and we can also have Clean Power Alliance, and those, like we said, the magic in this, the power in it, isn't the default. And I really appreciate hearing those numbers. That thank you, Erica, for making the calls and finding out how other jurisdictions were feeling. And there was some comments you said from customers that the transition could have been a little bit maybe smoother. But we have to look also at that number of, I think, on average, 93% of customers who have Clean Power Alliance stay with them on average. I mean, that's really huge, and that's really a large number of residents who accept the program, who understand it, who, like we were mentioning about the charge don't have. I just know the acronym is the PCIA, for moving from Edison to Clean Power Alliance. And again, saying that sometimes is a charge and maybe it's a credit. But regardless of those things, the majority of residents across this area of Southern California have adopted Clean Power Alliance in our area and are happy with it. I think that's the bottom line. And I love that Clean Power Alliance also has those workforce development, these green jobs on the horizon perhaps, and that's something that I think would be really beneficial to our community. So, those are my thoughts, overall. I've, again, happy that Councilmember Garnica really wanted to hear more and wanted to get sort of a larger understanding of where we are in terms of power energy providers and the different options. But I'm very, very supportive of us moving forward with the feasibility study, and I think it's a really good investment. One thing that wasn't mentioned that I wanted to point out, I may have mentioned the last meeting, but I wanted to point out again, is and it was also mentioned here, was that Fillmore, a representative from Fillmore would be a part of the Clean Power Alliance board and actually be able to be literally a seat at the table at the Clean Power Alliance board meetings and talking about community programs that we could bring to Fillmore, to our Santa Clara Valley community, and talk about rate setting. Actually, a table that's what the board of directors works on for Clean Power Alliance, and I think that's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. And the fact that the Alliance is such a stable organization, again, nonprofit organization, and just happens to be in our area that we have here in Ventura County the largest green energy provider and Clean Power Alliance in the United States. And it happens to be, it's here amongst our community. It's surrounding us. So, with that, I just, would like to voice my support for moving forward with this feasibility study. I think it is worth the investment, absolutely.
Mayor, I'd like to call for the question.
Yes.
Should we?
Yeah, so I would like that. I would like to entertain a motion.
I'd like to move that we approve participation in the Clean Power Alliance feasibility study and authorize a $10,000 general fund reserve transfer.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? I will second. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Yeah, can we hear you on the mic, Albert?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no.
No, and that is because of the $10,000.
Okay, thank you. So we have a vote of 3-1. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, again for your comments on this item. We appreciate it. Okay, we are moving on now to our next business item, and that is item 9B, the annexation of, just want to make sure I'm ready. Annexation of DP 01-02 Nova Storage to Landscape and Lighting Assessment District Number 2. I'm sorry. Let me get my information here. Just getting adjusted there after that. Okay, so this is a public hearing. So, okay, just want to make sure I'm reading this. That at this time and place for the public hearing for the proposed annexation of DP 0102 Nova Storage into Landscape and Lighting District Number 2. I now open the public hearing for this property. And I need to ask the question, I believe. Has the Deputy City Clerk received any written protest filed against the annexation for this property?
No written protest received, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and next we begin with our staff report.
Thank
Ms.
you,
Roxanne,
Mayor
thank you.
Villasenor. Good evening, City Council, public. This is a quick annexation for DP 0102, otherwise known as that beautiful expansion of Nova Storage up on First Street and A Street. This is a public hearing, basically, the public hearing for finalizing the annexation of that property where Nova Storage fits into City's Landscaping Lighting Assessment District Number 2. This will accomplish Nova Storage being added to the tax assessor rolls so that they can pay for the maintenance of the street trees that they installed as part of their development and the street lighting. And so all the details are in the staff report, and that concludes my report. I'll entertain any questions.
Okay, thank you, Roxanne. Do we have any questions on this agenda item? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion. I think we have several recommendations. Let me see here. Tiffany, I just wanted to make sure, do I close the public hearing, or we move forward with the public hearing still open? Right. Yes, and there was none. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. Let me keep going with my script here. Sorry about that. Is there anyone present who wishes to address the council on this matter or hand in any protest or correspondence? If so, please come to the podium. And when you come to the podium, please state your name and address your present comments. Okay, we have none here. Okay, does any member of the city council here have any comments or questions on this? Nope. Okay. All right, so I officially now will close the public hearing. And will the clerk please open and count the ballots?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you.
The ballot states that they are in favor of the new assessment, and there's not a majority protest based on the weighted ballots. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So is anyone now, we are now ready to make a motion.
Okay, Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to move that the council adopt resolution number 25-4073, confirming the annexations of territory, approving the engineer's report, approving the assessment diagram, and ordering the levy and collection of assessments for fiscal year 2025-2026 for Zone 3 DP 01-02, known as Nova Storage, within the Landscape and Lighting Assessment District Number 2, and overruling all protests concerning the assessments, if any, and levying the assessment confirmed herein.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay. We will now move on to our next agenda item, and that is item number 9C. This is a public hearing, introduction of the City Council Ordinance 25-981, Zone ZOA 24-02, and Zone C 24-01, implementing the 2021 to 2029 Housing Element Action 3.1, Action 3.2. Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Thank you, Brian.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and City of Fillmore. I'll be presenting this item. Let's see. Okay. Looks like we have an old. I'm going to close out the last presentation here. Okay, here we go. This is the housing element actions. This is the zoning text amendment DP 2402 and zone change 2104. The housing element is a requirement of the general plan. It's updated every 8 years as required under state law. And with the housing element comes necessary rezones to allow for increased in housing supply for future development. As part of our housing element, which was approved by City Council in September 2024, we have action items that implement the various programs to provide a wide range of housing for various income levels in the city. Our number, which is referred to as RHNA, Regional Housing Needs Assessment, is 415 total units, and that's then broke down into subcategories of very low, low, medium, moderate, or and above moderate or market rate. So to help meet those RHNA numbers, the 415, part of our housing element actions include rezoning, and we have 2 rezones which you're hearing tonight. One is the RMH2 zone, which will increase densities between 15 and 20 dwelling units per acre, and the second action is 3-2, which creates a housing overlay zone. The zones are shown here in blue, a little bit hard to see. They're roughly between Santa Clara Street and State Route 126, and between A Street and Mountain View. And then the housing overlay zones are in pink, a little bit to the left. One's up on the north side along B Street. There's one along Sespe, and then one down south along C Street. I'll zoom in a little bit closer. This is the RMH2 zone. So again, this is just south of City Hall here and on either side of Central Avenue. These are underutilized parcels or parcels that have been zoned commercial highway for a very long time, but they consist of single-family residential homes, and those homes are considered non-conforming with the zone district. So this zone would allow for those houses to continue to exist, but it makes them legal. So having a legal zone will allow them to get financing and do other things to remodel and upgrade, and a little bit of an expansion on those homes. It just basically gets them legalized. And then it also rezones some of the other residential parcels to allow for higher density. In total, this area is 9.71 acres, and it would allow for 170 housing units.
Brian, could you just address really quickly from my background, how did that come to be that those houses were not, quote unquote, legally built?
They were constructed a very long time ago, roughly 100 years ago, and even longer, the turn of the century. So they're old bungalow-style homes. And over time, they've just sort of deteriorated, and then zoning laws came into effect. Zoning and building codes came into effect around mid-19th century, around the 50s, 60s, and then real zoning efforts started happening in the 80s. And so they just became non-conforming. It's very common that as zoning laws come into effect and the public kind of determines how land should be laid out over time, older uses are supposed to phase out over time as new development comes in. But development's been pretty slow to get up to our general plan. So it's a living, breathing document, the general plan and the zoning. So, as markets change and people's appetite for things change, we do go in and tweak it from here to there and make sure that, it's keeping pace with modern times. So that's what this is. It's an effort to keep pace with what's deemed as a housing demand. Yeah. So just a little more summary on the RMH2 zone. I think I pretty much covered most of this here. So again, single-family homes will be allowed to upgrade and remodel. And the residential zone will continue to allow for other types of uses that are consistent, like churches, daycare centers, and schools. And along with the rezone comes development standards. So we fit this in the RDMH2 zone within our existing development standard matrix. And it's relatively comparable to some of the other zones. But again, these are a little more lenient in terms of development to allow for development of parcels that may be constrained by size. So like the smallest size here is 3,000 square feet, and that's pinned to exactly the smallest parcel that you find in that zone. So it allows them to build. And a lot of this might, if you do multifamily housing, a developer would probably want to assemble a few parcels and merge them together. and make more units fit better because you still have setbacks. So these are the general standards there shown in red for the RMH2 zone. And it allows up to 35 feet or 3 stories. 35 feet is what you see out at many mansions. And then the second action tonight, 3.2, is the housing overlay. Again, this is underutilized type properties. These properties are all currently vacant. They've been vacant for quite some time. The one up on B Street has supported agriculture, but that has since been cleared. Yeah. This zone's a little more intensive. It's up to 24 dwelling units per acre. Yeah.
Where's the one that you just mentioned?
I'm glad you asked because this is it right here. Yeah, this is the one on B Street. I'm sorry I covered it in pink so you can't quite, it's not transparent there, but I can go to a Google Earth if you'd like. But that's B, and it's bordered by 3rd Street on the north and 2nd Street on the south. And this is Sespe. You've probably driven by it a few times. We've had a lot of interest in this parcel over time, and we've had a track map get processed, and then they just let it expire, or they never completed it.
Just curiosity on that one. Do you know what that developer was proposing on that when they did?
Single family.
Single family.
Which was, the zoning on this right now is residential low. So they were proposing, I believe, 10 single-family residential units.
Okay.
And there's actually been some interest of late to follow the same sort of layout. Residential, single-family residential would be consistent with that neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And then this is the property down south of the highway. Another question? Yeah. No, it's okay. This is a working meeting.
My apologies.
Yeah.
On the Sespe property?
Yeah.
When you're saying single family, you're talking about single family residence, or are you talking about multiple units?
That property is big enough to support single-family homes, so. Multiple single-family homes, up to 10. So individual homes that don't share a wall with any other unit, and they'll have their own yard and side yard and.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, question?
Yeah.
Again, since we're asking questions in the middle of your presentation, so I know that parks are at a premium. Has there ever been a consideration by the council or to look at properties like this for parks or anything like that?
I don't know if throughout history, if they've looked at it. These are privately owned parcels. I'd have to go back and research, but I don't believe that, to my knowledge, the city has seriously looked at acquiring any of these.
Okay. Thank you.
This is down south, near the old wastewater treatment plant. This is the other property, and these in total are 10.69 acres, and altogether they would support 255 housing units using that maximum zoning of 24 units per acre. And if you were doing the math like the mayor is, and you added the RMH2 zone and this housing overlay zone, I think you get to 425 units. Our arena number again is 415. So that's how that calculates out. And the housing overlay zone is shown here. That's in red. That's that last column. And again, these development standards are pretty consistent with what we do with some of the other zones. It kind of lands right in the middle of the RMH2 and the RPD high. The RPD high is an existing zone designation. That one's our most intensive use, so it's a notch down from that.
Okay.
And this one still does allow for the 35 feet or up to 3 stories. So then the other major component of this action tonight is we've put together objective design standards for multi-family housing development. And we do objective design standards to take the guesswork out of housing developments that come in through the door. And it's per state law, the objective standards involve no subjective judgment. So, staff will often be criticized that, that projects may be getting overly scrutinized. Well, this kind of has a more specific criteria by which we review the projects. And we've reviewed these with architects and with developers. So the multifamily objective design standards would be another component of the municipal code. And again, like I said, they would establish multifamily development standards to take some of the guesswork out and add objective criteria. Under current state laws, a lot of projects are becoming by right type housing. And so the city, not only is it good to have the objective standards so the developer knows what they're doing, but we also want to hold a standard for the city so that developments coming in are going to be of a certain quality and meet a certain character that you want to see in Fillmore. So that's the other motivation for wanting to do something like this, is to get a standard up there at least so that we can make sure we're getting good projects. Tonight's recommendation is to review the staff report, receive the presentation, open the public hearing, receive testimony, and close the hearing, and approve the first reading to introduce the ordinance, zoning ordinance amendment and zone change, to implement the housing element, and to change the zoning designation of the identified parcels and adopt the development standards specific to residential development within these zones, adding multifamily residential development objective standards as part of the Fillmore Municipal Code, and an exemption from CEQA. If you had anything you want to go over specific to the design, the objective design standards, I have them all pasted here in slides. I didn't want to go through each one, but I'll gladly take questions.
Okay, thank you, Brian,
thank
for your
you.
presentation. I think there might be some questions. No? So I do have a question, and that's going back to the housing overlay and the dwelling units per acre. And because my question is, and I wrote out some like key words: permitted, allowed, maximum. And I say those because I just want to have an understanding here. Like, I think we might have some speakers on this. As required by state to have these zones and the overlay zones and the zoning changes as required to have that availability, just the availability amongst these empty lot properties that are in the city. But I just want to make sure I'm clear. That doesn't necessitate that now that this is allowable, that one, something will be built anytime soon, or that two, that there is a minimum of that multi-unit that needs to happen. And I guess I want to just refer back how you had mentioned on the Sespe Avenue lot there, the old insectary, that the surrounding residences around them are single-family homes, and to build a few single-family homes is consistent in the area. Mm-hmm. That proposal, if a developer were to come, is a valid proposal. It's not something that's would say, oh, we're doing this housing overlay now. It has to be a minimum of some higher number density. So if you could just speak to that.
Yes, certainly.
Okay, thank you.
That's a great question. And there has been some concern. We have had calls from residents in the surrounding area about, what does this mean? And is it going to be a bunch of tall buildings that are going to add traffic to Sespe and things like that? But to answer your question, though, the up to 24 units is not required. It's called a housing overlay and not a zone, because the overlay kind of goes on top of the residential low zone, which stays in effect. So the zoning is still residential low, and it has an overlay over it. So where a developer want to come in and want to do single family home per the underlying zoning, absolutely. They're free and clear to do that. The housing overlay adds an incentive to get the property built so that if the market wanted higher density housing and the numbers aren't working for the single family home developer, it offers opportunity for someone to do a higher density, and maybe that will help it pencil in terms of the return on their investments. So it's allowing more, to put it short, it's allowing more diversity in terms of market for the property. So if single family home is what the city demands, a developer should build single family homes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's helpful to understand.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, and it could be potentially somewhere maybe in between.
It could be anywhere in between.
Right.
Yeah.
It could be maybe, some townhomes, a few townhomes. Okay.
We've had someone kind of looking at it and penciling out, I think 17 to 20 units per acre, kind of townhome style, duplex style. So that would be kind of a middle market between the single family and the 3-story multifamily. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yes, Carrie. Thank you.
I don't have a question, just a comment talking about the objective design standards.
Yes.
I just wanted to point out, remind council as well as all the constituents in the city of Fillmore, the due diligence that the planning department here in Fillmore, especially under the guidance of Kevin as well as Brian, just demanding the level of design that you see in the bridges that you see in the low-income housing development. I'm sorry, I'm losing the developer. Mini mansions, thank you. The mini mansions development on Mountain View and the highway. Anyway, so it's this due diligence that I think is making Fillmore kind of catching the attention of people all over the county. I've heard from multiple people that what they're seeing built, the quality in Fillmore is far and above what they're seeing elsewhere. And I just really appreciate that. So I wanted to bring that to the community's attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's no further questions, then I'll move on to open the public hearing. Okay. So get my bearings here. Okay. So now we are going to open the public hearing. Thank you, Brian, for your presentation. Open the public hearing and receive any public testimony. And we do have some public testimony on this item. So just a reminder, we have 3 minutes, and I'll let you know when your last 30 seconds are up. Mr. James Mills is first. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'm James Mills, and I live on Chaparral Street, which is adjacent to one of the properties that was presented here. I'm curious to know why this area is being rezoned, and I'm talking specifically about Mr. Hazy's old orange grove that's been cleared, B Street, 3rd Avenue, 2nd Street, and Chaparral Street. Why is being considered to be rezoned for residential medium and high density. There's only one other section in the Fillmore area that is currently zoned for medium high density and has neighbors, and that would be the assisted living area. It's probably over there on River, I think. The one section that has no neighbors surrounding the buildings is the new low-income area over there, Mountain View and Highway 126. The proposed rezoning area includes Chaparral Street, which is my street. And that's my understanding. I would defer to someone who could clarify that. An older neighborhood where I've lived since 1987. That's 38 years. My wife and I chose to raise our family in Fillmore because of the unique small town atmosphere that exists here. We're both from that environment. The second reason that we chose Chaparral Street is because of the privacy issue. Mr. Hazy's orange grove was behind our house, has been behind our house up until about, 2 years ago, I guess. Mr. Hazy has passed, and of course, the folks who inherit that property have decided not to continue in citrus production. So the trees died. The city very thoughtfully had it cleared. It's a fire hazard. It was kind of scary. Our house backed up to that grove.
Just to let you know, Mr. Mills, you have 30 seconds.
Say again?
You have 30
Oh,
seconds
you're
left.
kidding me. That's 3 minutes?
It is.
Okay. Where do I want to go here? The Planning Commission has approved this rezoning proposal, and I'd like to know what they base their approval decision on. I'd like to know if they considered safety, if they considered fire access. Oh, you're killing me here. My concern, my personal concern, is privacy and the economic impact such a development would have on our homes in our neighborhood. I suspect that the economic impact would be that housing values will plummet. The only benefit to be gained by rezoning our neighborhood to allow medium-high density occupancy dwellings will be to the developer.
Thank you,
who owns
Mr.
the
Mills.
property. Okay. I respectfully ask the council to disapprove this rezoning for at least that piece of property.
Thank you. Okay, we have another speaker on this item also. We have several. And our next speaker is Mary Avila. Mary has left. Okay. And our next speaker after that is Cecilia Baro Gomez. Okay, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Villaseñor, council members, and fellow Fillmore residents. My name is Cecilia Baro Gomez. I've been a resident of Fillmore for 40 years. I stand before you today not in opposition of affordable housing, but in opposition for the proposed overlaying or rezoning of what would possibly allow high-density affordable housing in our single-family neighborhood located on Sespe Avenue and surrounding areas. This neighborhood is defined by more than just houses. It's defined by many families, quiet streets, a sense of safety and belonging. What is being proposed threatens that fabric. A structure that this size and density simply does not belong in this type of neighborhood. Existing neighborhoods like it. It clashes entirely with the scale, character, and rhythm of our neighborhood. I was told it could possibly be a 35-foot structure, and that would tower over our 12-foot surrounding homes, blocking much-needed sunlight, especially to those with existing solar panels, increasing noise level, increasing parking and traffic to an already busy street. It would reduce our privacy and forever alter the peaceful, open feeling that has been built in this single-family home community. I question, how do structures of this magnitude do not bring a sudden spike in population, demanding more from our city resources, potentially impacting our public facilities, utilities, water pressure, sewer treatment, fire, and police services? I understand the need for more affordable housing due to the state's requirements, but proper zoning is necessary. And cramming high-density housing into a low-density area without adequate thought to the future impact it will have on its current residents is not progress. It seems like poor planning at the cost of our neighborhood and the people that reside there. Lastly, I'd like to point out that I'm not only here speaking for myself and my husband, but for several of my neighbors, a mixture of families, young families, and elderly that I had the pleasure of speaking with regarding this matter. Unfortunately, some stated that they were not aware of the situation, some did not receive a notice, some stated they only receive in English and do not read or speak English. And most of them are not able to attend today due to the short notice.
Cecilia, you have 30 seconds.
On my behalf and theirs, we ask you to vote no on the proposal for high density or the rezoning For the CESP Avenue location, we ask that you please protect the integrity and character of our homes, demand smarter growth, and consider each and every resident and the impact it will have on our lives and our single-family neighborhood that we call home. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, those are the 2 comment cards I have on this item, on this public hearing. Are there any more comments before I close it? Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Okay. Brian is here for any questions, and I just turn to my fellow council members for direction, for comments.
So, again, being the new guy on the block here, you guys help me out. What options do we have? I mean, we've heard from several, members of the audience and residents about what they would prefer to see. I mean, is there something that we could do other than the recommended staff? Could we, for example, instead of medium high, could we just limit it to medium and low? Is that or not? I'm not suggesting that, but is something like that possible?
Maybe Brian can answer it. My initial answer to that is that per
state law,
per state law and the requirements of our, I forget what RENA stands for again, our numbers, the city, again, as one of the actions necessitated in our housing element to be able to adopt officially and certify our housing element is to allow for these rezoning for one and the overlay to get closer to that larger RENA, to the RENA number. Maybe.
But I believe I also heard Brian say that if the council wants single-family homes, that's, did I mishear that, Brian? Maybe I misheard that. That if we wanted single-family homes, for example, on the CESP lot, or let's say the B Street lot, that's what we would get. Did I mishear you? Maybe I did.
It'll be what, if a developer proposes single-family homes, they could, consistent with the zoning. So they could come with a tract map, and we would bring it through Planning Commission, and a tract map would go to City Council as well for single-family homes.
But if we adopt the zoning as it's stated now, and a developer comes with, let's say, 3-story homes, we would be kind of obligated to go along with the zoning, wouldn't we?
As long as it's considered consistent with all of the objective development standards, then yes, we would be obligated to approve it.
Okay.
I have a question, Brian. This is just, again, just a question to put out there on if a developer were to come forward to any of the housing overlay lots with, again, maybe not single-family homes, but townhouse type, maybe not to the maximum level that's discussed, and we're able to fulfill some of those moderate income RENA numbers that we haven't yet been able to do. Is there something to work with HCD, which HCD is the state housing, that says we've got someone who's willing to do some workforce medium income housing. Can you can that count towards something, HCD, in terms of either our RENA numbers or showing that we're making a good faith effort?
Yeah, our RENA numbers are a mix of units. So that moderate income segment could be, we could work with the developer to make that a higher component of what they would propose. The moderate income mixed in with market rate would tend to be lower density. So yeah, it's not a fixed number.
Mm-hmm.
When a development comes in, there'll be adjustments depending on how they can fit the units onto the site. And we have had a developer look at townhome style duplexes for the property on B Street specifically.
Okay.
And I think they fit up to 50 units, I believe.
Okay.
So until a development comes in, we don't really know exactly, but there is flexibility in terms of meeting that middle market.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And likewise, you said too, there was some interest in the CESP Avenue of potentially single-family homes.
Yeah. Yeah, there was recently somebody looking at picking up the old track map and doing a similar design.
Okay. Okay. No.
Yeah, and Kevin's going to add.
Okay.
If I could just speak plainly, The housing element does nothing more than provide an opportunity for developers in the city to provide housing. That's it, an opportunity. We don't have any developments proposed on any of the projects that are, any of the properties that are presented to you tonight. So anyone who's commenting tonight, they can comment in the future when there is a project. There are no projects at this time. And then to answer your question on CESP and on the overlay off of B Street, Mr. Herb Hazy, there's no project right now. We do have development interests on CESP. Just as Brian stated, we do have someone interested in putting 10 units, single family with 2 ADUs, just as what was previously approved, but no application's been made at this time. If we do have development potential, you're describing exactly what could happen. It could be single family homes or at a higher density or anywhere in between. Hopefully, with our design interests and we start applying parking standards and all the other standards, we don't get the maximum number that you described. On the Herb Hazy property, we do have development interests. No application's been made, and the interest is not single-family homes, but at a higher density of townhomes and condominiums. So far, that design, we haven't seen anything, but from fire department, police department, public works, engineering, planning, we're concerned with the transition to the single family adjacent to the property. So we're looking at those kinds of things, but we've been looking at that for about a year, but no application's been made. When that does happen, we'll let the surrounding owners know about it, and then they can comment on it during the project review. So I don't know if I confused matters, but just know this: there is no project on any of the properties right now.
That's helpful. Thank you. Yes, question.
Kevin, so taking, say, these proposed developments, say, and when it comes, it's going to go in front of the Planning Commission. They're going to look at it with the same standards, say, like the property over here on, by the bus. That property started off with 3 stories, and eventually what it got down to is kind of what we, Fillmore, wanted, was we've scaled it down to the area that it's in. And I suppose that any property that's going to be built, the same procedures are, again, we're going to look at it with that eye, the same way, to blend into the community that's there, their privacy concerns, their so on, whatever concerns they have, we're going to bring that to the Planning Commission and work with the developer to get the product that we want at that location, correct?
You described exactly what would happen. And by the way, the planning commissioners were concerned about building mass and bulkness and scale. That was part of their review. It took them 2 times to review it, and they changed the objective standards a little bit so that buildings didn't seem so large. Councilmember Mendez is describing a project that came in at 3 stories, 1 full city block, concrete block, and was presented to the Planning Commission. A number of the neighbors complained, and the project was told to redesign it. They redesigned it. They removed 30 units, and they made them 2-story, and they comply with many of our requirements. That's how we just described how projects are presented. So once we get a development application.
My purpose of asking that question and describing it was to kind of alleviate the fears that our public may have.
When they speak up, when they comment,
speak up, that we do hear that, and the Planning Commission does hear their concerns.
Yeah.
And when they hear those concerns, as long as us as the council hear those concerns, we will. Yeah, and we will fight as much as we can with the developer to get a product that we want in the community that we'll be happy with.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. And I just want to make another comment too. Thank you for bringing up, and Brian, the design standards, because I think that is such the key tool.
Yeah.
You know, that we're gonna, you know, this motion moves forward, and we do adopt these last couple of actions of the current housing element. A really key tool to help us in terms of you get a proposal, and if we have very specific and detailed standards, that's when the project starts molding or changing, morphing into the project that we want versus the project that the developer wants to put. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, and we hear all of their concerns, and we share with those concerns too, and we really try to sharpen our pencils on these design standards. And I'll just point out a couple things. The 35 feet is the same height that's already allowed under the existing zoning. So even though we're saying it's up to 3 stories, the 35-foot limit's still going to be the same. We required the third floor. Should they do the third floor, they may be able to meet density at 2 stories only. But if they pull back from the perimeter and they do a third story, it's going to be stepped back from the second floor. And we also, in the design standards, required offsets of windows so that you don't have a direct view into your neighbor's window. We have fire accounted for so that we have setbacks surrounding them. And again, the third story being stepped back from the second floor for fire access. And we promote in here, it specifically calls out for decks on the second floor. So if you have your third floor, it's going to be pushed toward the middle of the project and maybe a roof decks on the perimeter. Trying to keep to the Fillmore character as much as possible and still hit our RENA numbers. And we think we're there on this. Somebody did bring up the solar access, and that is a very good question. And in the staff report, I should mention that we offered up some language that the council could add to the design standards. It requires that a development coming in would submit a shadow study. And the shadow study would look at a property, a new development casting a shadow to an adjacent residence to the north. Because our sun is on the south side, it'll shade north property. So they would submit a shadow study, and the shadow study would have specific standards in there that are measurable to prevent a house from losing solar access completely. I should have brought a picture, but I took a picture of City Hall. We're at about 35 feet, and the shadow outside our windows here is only about 10 feet. In the middle of the day, that was at 2 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So a shadow of 10 feet at 2 o'clock would get you kind of into the setback of the adjacent property, but wouldn't significantly shadow their windows or solar panels. But nevertheless, we'll take the guesswork out of it by having a design standard, and that's on page 6 of your staff report, and we can add that in.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Just
Yeah.
a question on that then. Per a motion on this, does that need to be added in particularly, or that's not part of the?
It's not in now in the standards, but I put it in the staff report. If you'd like us to add that,
okay,
I'll add it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
We've got no further questions for Brian or Kevin. Thank you very much, and no further discussion. And I like what Brian said about that shadow study. I'll entertain a motion. Anybody?
Yes, so I'd like to move that the city council approve, or actually introduce the first reading of City Council Ordinance 25-981, ZOA 24-02, and ZC 24-01, implementing the 2021 through 2029 Housing Element Action 3-1, creating RMH2, and Action 3-2, creating Housing Overlay Zone, to change the zone designation of identified parcels and adopt developmental standards specific to residential development within these zones, adding multifamily residential development objective design standards as Fillmore Municipal Code Section 6.04-0418, and finding of exemption from CEQA.
As amended?
As amended, yes.
As amended with the inclusion of the shadow study proposed.
Yes.
Okay. All right, have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion is second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. And I want to thank all the speakers also for coming today. Their comments. Okay, we are move on now to our next agenda item. And okay, we're gonna keep moving here. Let's see. We are now on item number 9D, consideration of resolution 25-4074, fixing the compensation, benefits, and other items and conditions of employment of non-representative management, mid-management, confidential, and part-time employees of the city of Fillmore, effective July 1st. Hello, Jackie.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and residents of Fillmore. My name is Jackie Herrera. I'm the HR supervisor. Staff is recommending for the City Council to adopt Resolution 25-4074, updating the compensation and benefit resolution for non-represented employees, which includes mid-management, confidential, part-time employees. If this resolution is adopted and approved, it will take an effect January 1st, 2025 of this year. The proposed updates include one, a 4% salary increase for non-represented management, mid-management, and confidential employees under salary schedule M and C. This adjustment is intended to provide a compensation increase consistent with the amounts previously approved for represented employees. Second, a $200 increase in cafeteria plan contribution for employees enrolled in city-sponsored health plans. This is raising the monthly amount from $1,325 to $1,525 to help offset the rising health insurance premiums. Employees who opt out of the health plan will continue to only receive the $825 per month. Again, this is the same as the previous item. The increase is intended to be consistent with what was approved for the represented employees. And lastly, add a monthly technology allowance stipend of $135 for the human resources supervisor position and the public works supervisor position to support their need for ongoing connectivity and remote access. And this concludes my presentation. Is there any questions?
I just want to add it would be effective July 1st, not January 1st.
Oh, sorry, July 1st.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
Okay. Thank you, Jackie. Do we have any questions? All right. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
You want the new guy to do all the work, don't you? That's what it is. You're hazing me, aren't you?
I'll do it myself.
Oh, okay. Is that what it is? Okay. All right. I'll make a motion that the City Council adopt Resolution 25-4074, fixing the compensation, benefits, and other terms and conditions of employment of non-represented management and mid-management, confidential, and part-time employees of the City of Fillmore effective July 1st, 2025, and superseding and replacing Resolution 24-4038.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Make sure you're on the mic.
Sorry. Second.
Second. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to say no one's opposed. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Okay. Our next agenda item is item number 9E. Consider approval of a new job classification, firefighter, and adopting the new job description. Okay. Thank you, Jack.
Again. So the staff is recommending for City Council, again, to adopt the resolution 25-4076 to formally establish the firefighter job description, which includes the approval of the firefighter job classification, including the approval of the job description and compensation range effective July 1st of this year. This will be a full-time represented employee under Local 5382. In accordance with the Myers-Mills-Brown Act, the city completed the required meet and confer process with the union, and the association is in full agreement with the proposed job description and compensation rate. This also was part of our recently adopted budget for the fiscal year 2025 and 2026. And as part of this action, the city will be adding hopefully 2 full-time firefighter positions to the fire department. And yeah, that includes my presentation. Any questions?
Do we have any questions? No? Okay. For a motion, I'm going to look to my Mayor Pro Tem. Step up.
I move that the City Council adopt Resolution 25-4076, formally approving the firefighter job classification and adopting a job description and compensation range for the classification effective July 1, 2025.
Okay, have a motion. Have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right. Jackie, we're staying up there.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Our next item is item number 9F, consideration of adoption of an updated CalPERS publicly available pay schedule.
Okay, so the staff recommends for City Council to adopt the resolution 254075. This is to adopt the updated salary schedule, which incorporates the 2 recent changes that were just previously approved in the resolutions. This is to be compliant with CalPERS. All public agencies contracting through CalPERS are required to adopt a publicly available pay schedule that is used to calculate the retirement benefits. Anytime there's any update to a position or salary, it needs to be updated. And that's pretty much it. This concludes my presentation.
All right. Does anyone have any questions? All right. Seeing none, for a motion.
Mayor, I move that we adopt Resolution 25-4075, approving the city's updated publicly available pay schedule to comply with CalPERS requirements.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion. I have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Jackie. Okay, our next agenda item now is 9G, consideration of approval of the First Amendment to the agreement with West Coast Arborists for citywide tree maintenance services. Hello, Shannon.
Hi,
Good
good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Shannon Godfrey, Public Works Senior Management Analyst. I'm here this evening to present a request for council consideration and approval of the First Amendment to the city's agreement with West Coast Arborists for our citywide tree maintenance services. Staff is recommending that the council approve the First Amendment, which would extend the contract through June 30th, 2027. The amendment also includes an increase to the not-to-exceed contract amount per fiscal year, an updated compensation schedule, and an expanded scope of services, including the development of a new tree pallet and planting plan for the city. The city originally entered into an agreement with West Coast Arborists in January 2022 to provide citywide tree maintenance services. Their current contract is set to expire on June 30th, 2025. Over the past few years, staff has been very satisfied with the level of service that West Coast Arborists has delivered. Their team has been responsive, professional, and consistent in addressing our tree maintenance needs. Under the existing agreement, the annual not-to-exceed amount was generally limited to about $100,000. While that level of funding supported the most essential services, mainly safety-focused and emergency pruning, it didn't allow us to maintain our full inventory of city trees as proactively or comprehensively as we would have liked. This has created some gaps in our routine maintenance. Many trees are not receiving regular care, which can affect both their long-term health and their aesthetics and safety of public spaces. In response, staff requested and council approved a higher allocation for tree maintenance in the fiscal year 25-26 budget. This increase allows us to move forward to a more proactive and preventative maintenance model, and the contract amendment reflects that in this shift in approach. So the First Amendment proposes several key changes. It'll extend the contract term by 2 years through the end of fiscal year 26-27, ensuring uninterrupted service. It'll set a revised not to exceed amount of $266,312 per fiscal year for fiscal year 25-26 and 26-27 if budget approved. And at the same, and then it will update the compensation schedule beginning July 1st. And West Coast Arborist rates will increase by 10% in the first year of the amendment, and it'll be followed by a CPI-based adjustment capped at 3% effective July 1st, 2026. The total not to exceed amount over the 2-year extension period will be $532,624. For the upcoming fiscal year, the full $266,312 has already been budgeted. Funding will come from a combination of the Gas Tax Fund, Fund 203, and various landscape and lighting district funds dedicated to tree maintenance. This contract amendment directly supports the council's adopted goal to improve public infrastructure. A well-maintained urban tree canopy enhances safety, reduces long-term maintenance costs, and contributes to the overall appearance and quality of life in Fillmore. And this evening we have Lorenzo Perez, our area manager from West Coast Arborist, here with us for any questions and in support of the amendment. And that concludes my presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, thank you, Shannon, very much. Do we have any questions for council?
Yeah,
Comments?
I just have one, just out of curiosity. How many trees, let's say in a 6-month period, or actually, or whatever period of time you want to apply, are actually trimmed back, or maybe weekly, I don't know, but how quickly and how frequently are the trees really, and how many trees are?
So we get started right at the beginning of the fiscal year. We have a grid system, so we have the city split up into 4 grids. Each grid is trimmed annually. And then we also have our palm trees on a 1 to 2 year trimming schedule because they require more frequent trims. We begin right at the beginning of the fiscal year and we go until our funds run out. So we capture the grid on a map and we start entering work orders to West Coast Arborists. And they last year, which worked really well, I'll continue probably doing the next 2 years, is we had them here 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, until they were done trimming. So this year we'll be able to go, we actually ran out of our funding about mid-year this year. So we did the 2 week on, 2 week off, did all of our tree trimming we did grid 3 this fiscal year, and we were done by mid-year. We did a little bit of extra trimming for the landscape and lighting districts just the last few weeks, and now we're done with what we have in the budget. So we have to wait until July to start grid 4. We'll do the whole grid, and then we'll probably have some funding left over, and we'll get to go back and go through our work orders that we've received through Public Works, inquiries, and we'll get to, knock those out. And then probably do some high-risk stuff like dead trees and stump removals and things like that. We just try to keep up with everything that's going on.
Thank you, that was very helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what do you do? Okay, so you've said that about the middle of the year, of the fiscal year, you run out of money. So what happens if there's, for example, an emergency like, hey, this tree's about to fall down, I can see it's going to break and it's going to fall on a structure. Where does that funding come from? Because what I'm thinking is, staff has asked for a substantial increase in funding, but I would imagine that some of that funding is going to be replaced by what we would have spent on emergency stuff. So I don't know if you can address some of that do we spend money when there's an emergency? I imagine we do, right?
We do.
Yeah.
We do have emergencies where, say, a whole tree falls over. It's large, and our city crew can't do it, with what we have. So we call West Coast Arborists in. We do have a city tree truck that we purchased a few years ago, and our staff can do tree trimming. So we do pick up, the extra work when we can't contracted out to West Coast Arborist. So when we run out of funding for emergency work, sometimes we'll look at the fund overall, and if there's some funding in another line item within the fund, we can reclass it into the tree maintenance account to cover that emergency work. If it's within a landscape and lighting district, we can, if there could be some money left over for tree trimming in that district. It just depends on where the tree is. If it's on city property, it would come out of a different fund. It wouldn't come out of the gas tax fund. So it just depends on where the tree is located, what we have left in the budget, and kind of if we can do it on our own or if we need West Coast Arborists to help us.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and just actually a follow-up question on that is doing a surveying tree and tree health, right, to see if there's, hollowed out or trees that are potentially could be fall down and then cost more, right, because they've fallen over, besides just trying to cut them down ourselves. So is that included? And also?
Yeah, so when West Coast Arborist goes out to do their maintenance, they're also updating the tree condition. And they have a software or a program that we use in collaboration with them to manage our tree sites. So they have the maintenance records in there, photos, condition, type of tree, the maintenance, recommended maintenance schedule, all of that. It's in a system called Arbor Access that we use.
Right, yeah, and I think I've seen one, per a pine tree.
Yeah.
I've seen an example of that. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you for that reminder.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Okay, all right, if there's no further questions or discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the First Amendment to the agreement with West Coast Arborist for citywide tree maintenance services, extending the term through June 30, 2027, increasing the not-to-exceed fiscal year contract limits, revising the compensation schedule, and updating the scope of services to include a new city tree palette and planting plan.
And I will second.
Okay, great. I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Shannon. All right, we are cruising here. All right, our next item, I've reached the 9 o'clock mark. I just wanted to check this, and I think we're able to keep going. Does anyone need to take a break? We are. All right. Okay. All right. If we're all okay, no one's raising their hand yet. Okay, then we'll just keep going here. We've got agenda item number. Let me see here. We are on 9H, the safety action plan versus the long range transportation plan.
Good evening. I'm Roxanne Hughes, your city engineer, in case you forgot,
Roxanne.
just in the last few minutes. A lot has happened. Okay, so this is actually in response to prior Councilmember Gruola's request about do we need a long-range transportation plan? What are we lacking in the way of addressing transportation issues around town? And so you have the full staff report before you. The short answer is long-range transportation plan, or an LRTP, is more of a regional planning document. We're already with Ventura County Transportation Commission and Caltrans, and they do that kind of long-range planning document, and we roll those into things like our general plan or our circulation element, and so those plans exist and are guiding, but they're more long-term. That said, I talked to our traffic and transportation team and at Wildan and other cities looking at what they have, and what came up is that what we don't have that would be really good for us to have, we feel, is what's called a safety action plan. And a safety action plan it's a considerable undertaking where it includes first looking at accident patterns, collision data around town to identify hotspots, patterns, and define projects to address those from an engineering sense. But it also incorporates a public outreach and public engagement where you ask the people that live in the town and say, where do you have safety concerns? What's not working for you? Where should we look at? And then we can look at those inputs. We poll the staff, we'll talk to the sheriff's department, and we put together basically a big laundry list of transportation, traffic related projects that can incorporate pedestrian bicycle safety, just traffic calming, like, is everybody speeding on certain streets? What can we do about that? And we identify projects, we scope those projects, we put costs to those projects, we put it all in one big plan that says, this is what we think we need to invest in to improve our traffic and transportation circulation around town. That can include the highway corridor, it can include, all areas of the town. And then to put together a document of this nature can cost anywhere from $200,000 to $500,000, depending on how involved it is and how big the town is. We'll probably be towards the lower range because we're kind of a smaller town. However, what the good news is that the Safe Streets and Roads for All, SS4A, grant program helps communities like Fillmore do things like this at no cost to us. And so we're recommending that we approve a task order with Wildan Engineering, our traffic and transportation group, who does these applications all the time, to put together to get it in by the end of June, by this year's cycle deadline. There is one more cycle. The application for that won't occur until next June, and then that's probably the last cycle of this SS4A grant program. So if we get it in this time, even if it doesn't go, we'll learn and maybe be able to try next time. But if we're successful, then we can get the safety action plan done, and once it's all done and adopted, there's other highway safety improvement program and future cycles of the SS4A. If we get the plan done this year on that last cycle, we might be able to put a couple of those projects in and get funding support for implementing the projects. And so I think that's probably what Councilmember Garola was thinking of. And I started going down we already have a long range. And then I thought, but a safety action plan would be really helpful because it'll help us leverage funding when it becomes available for projects that we've already identified and put in a plan and have ready to go. At least the idea and scoping and budget. So that is my staff report, and we're just requesting council guidance as to whether or not you'd like us to spend the money on the grant application.
All right, thank you, Roxanne. Are there any questions?
No.
Yes, I actually do have a question, and I'm not sure if you have the answer to this, but this sounds like something that would marry really well with, as I was mentioning earlier in my comments, the transportation, sort of community advisory group that I believe has funding in the county, and this is specifically around pedestrian and bicycle safety. So, just wanted to say that it would be great to communicate with them about this and see where to either support it.
The groups like those are perfect. That's part of the community engagement where we go to all existing users and groups that are thinking about this kind of work, bicycle, pedestrian, so yes, exactly. That would be wonderful.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think going along with what you just said, Mayor, I think this makes sense, also given the fact that we just saw the notice from the Sheriff's Department about e-bikes and e-scooters and all that stuff. I mean, things are not staying static. Things are changing all the time, especially with regard to pedestrian safety. So to me, this makes a lot of sense, given that we're seeing a lot of change in that regard.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Roxanne. Okay. I will entertain a motion then on this item. Would like to do it?
Yeah, I have a motion that we receive and file this informational update report regarding the need for a safety action plan as opposed to a long-range transportation plan, and that we direct staff to take the steps necessary to obtain funding for the preparation of a safety action plan, including issuance of a new task order under Wildan Engineering's on-call services contract to prepare and submit a Safe Streets and Roads for All planning grant application to obtain funding for the preparation of a safety action plan.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to former Councilmember Garola for bringing up this concern and his work on that. And thank you, Roxanne, for the follow-up. Okay, our next item. We are now on 9I. This is the discussion and update on the potential implementation of a Mills Act property tax program in the city of Fillmore.
1 second, that's my item. We're just pulling it up.
Oh, no problem. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
This is a continued item from the August 8th meeting. And so the next slide, please. The staff tonight is seeking direction from City Council regarding whether to pursue the adoption of the Mills Act property tax abatement program within the city of Fillmore. The alternatives for you tonight would be direct staff to develop and implement a formal Mills Act program or take no action. Next slide, please. So at the April 8th meetings, we presented an overview of what the Mills Act meant and what the implications would be for city. We were directed from you to conduct additional research, which we have. We reached out to other Ventura County jurisdictions who are currently have the program in place, specifically cities of Ventura and the city of Oxnard. The city of Oxnard contracts out with the county of Ventura, and so we had a lengthy conversation with the county of Ventura on what that would implicate. If tonight you decide to move forward with this, we would recommend that we also amend our current contract that we have with the Ventura County and also utilize their services to be able to implement this program. Next slide, please. So the eligibility requirements for the residents would be a historic designation. They would also have to have a preservation commitment, and there are certain numbers of qualifying properties. Next slide, please. So currently, Fillmore has 11 properties that have received historical designation through the Ventura County Cultural Heritage Board. The designation requirements are properties that are not already designated as historical would have to go on their own and pay for a historic resource report on their own. That would be meaning hiring a third-party consultant. The costs associated with that, it can range anywhere from $2,000 to several $1,000s. And it's a little bit of a cumbersome process, and then provide the report to the county, and then the designation would take place at the county level. Next slide, please. So the administration and oversight, again, we would be recommending that we partner with the county of Ventura just because they already have the program in place. And they are currently working with the city of Oxnard successfully. We wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel, and they have more staff than we do to be able to administer the program. City staff, however, would still need to provide some sort of oversight, which would be at the beginning of the process. An application would be submitted to city staff. City staff would have to make sure that the application is completed, that it meets the requirements of the county, and then turn it over to the county for the county to implement the process. The fee structure would have to be also adjusted because the city would have to recover the costs associated with the program. So it is recommended that we would have to establish a deposit fee to initiate the application. We would have to adopt an hourly rate. Currently, the county's hourly rate is $195.81 for their staff. But in addition to that, we would have to calculate our overhead as well and add that to the actual rate that we would pass on to the resident. Oxnard's, if I recall correctly, is about $380 roughly. And so also have in mind, salaries change as you just adopted a new salary schedule. So that is the current rate for the county. That would probably increase by next fiscal year as well. We would also recommend an annual contract fee maintenance and establish a 5-year inspection fee. Those are just the fees that we're recommending to adopt. And so if at this time you decide to move in this direction, my recommendation would be that we wait until we complete the full city fee study that we're undergoing, include this part of the fee study, and then we can implement the program, amend the contract with the county, and move forward. Next slide, please. And pertaining to the amount of tax that the property owner would potentially receive as a benefit of being part of this program. We also took a further step and we had a conversation with the Ventura County Assessor's Office. And so they take a 3-step approach to determine how their tax break is calculated. So the first one is the restricted value, which is based on a net operating income, and it's the market rent minus the allowable expenses and vacancy. The number 2 is the fair market value, which is the current value as of the lien to the date of the application. And then the Proposition 13 value, which is you base the year value at time of purchase and then adjust the annual inflation. So whenever a property is designated mixed or recent non-historic construction, they may be also subject to a blended value. So the county said that some properties end up not receiving the same percentage of a tax break as others may. And one of the things that we would recommend from the get-go, if there's any interest, property owner, to make sure that they consult with a tax advisor to assess the value of the program and whether that would be feasible for them or a potential benefit. Not only are they going to be restricted on what sort of updates they're able to do, because once they designate the property, they're going to have to be able to comply with that for the 10-year period of their contract. And so being able to keep up with the property at that, with the historical designations, also can be expensive. Next slide. Staff believes the time and effort required to implement, monitor, and enforce the Mills Act program may outweigh the benefits of the broader community, especially considering Fillmore's limited number of currently designated properties. Next slide. So the summary of feedback that we heard from other jurisdictions, just to give you background on this as well. City of Oxnard started in 2007. They currently have 10 active contracts, and they have approximately 478 properties that have been identified as potentially historic. Ventura, on the other end, administers the program internally, and they have 1 lead staff member with the planning support. They currently have 47 Mills Act contracts. Their revenue varies on tax revenue that they've lost based on those 47 properties, and that was included in the staff report. The County of Ventura, like I mentioned before, currently administers the Mills Act for Oxnard, and they are receiving about 2 applications a year, and they do conduct the inspections every 5 years, and then the fees that we discussed, those would have to be paid to the city, and then the city would have to pay the county once we receive an invoice if we were to be moving in that direction. So council direction and next steps. Whether you're going to support this initiative or not, that's why we're here tonight. If you give us the green light to move forward, we're going to create guidelines and a free structure. Again, I would like to wait for us to combine it with the ongoing fee study just to make sure that we're using our resources correctly and bring that as a whole back. Once everything's approved, then we could initiate the program. Definitely we would conduct community outreach, which is one of our council goals. And then we would, during that community outreach, we would implement a timeline. So that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Erika. Do we have any questions from council?
Well, I'd just like to say thank you so much for doing all that work. It's clear that you guys did a lot of work on, from the staff perspective on research so that we can make an informed decision. So thank you for that. And
all right. Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Carrie.
Yeah. I don't know if you can answer this, Erica, or maybe perhaps even our planning department director, Kevin. But do you see a benefit in if we had, let's say we even ended up at some point in time with 10 houses participating in this, any elevation of a neighborhood or maybe an attraction, something, another, feather in our cap for Fillmore, something to,
what's interesting, Carrie, I was just thinking about, the whole downtown area. to me, it is a historic area, and it's not limited only to residences. I believe the Mills Act also applies to any properties within the jurisdiction. So, I don't know, to me, it would seem to, I think philosophically, it makes more sense to adopt it if we want to continue to promote the downtown area as historic. I mean, we say that on our signage, we say that in several places. To me, this just seems like a logical extension of that, but.
Yeah, I would agree. The problem with downtown is that most of that is owned privately, and
That's okay.
property owners would have to get on board with doing it.
That's all of them. That's any property.
Well, yeah, but I just wonder whether they would be willing to.
Well, again, we're not forcing them. All we're doing is making
Just offering it to them.
Yeah, it would be a program that's available to anybody within, they have to go through all the steps that they outlined, right? They'd have to get designated as a historic site. Right? They have to go through that whole process. They have to do the whole application process. Everyone has to go through the same process, but I'm just looking at, hey, Patterson Hardware, it's empty. And if a potential owner, if we could say, well, or if a real estate agent could say, hey, look, the city's adopted the Mills Act, you might have a potential, it's let's say it's $1 million to buy this, but if you go through the Mills Act process, it could be a potential financial savings for you. See, to me, that's it's another way to try to incentivize, instead of having a bunch of, empty stores.
Right.
I think it would encourage people to look at it as a possible better investment.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kevin, did you have anything to add?
If a property downtown is deemed a landmark and has a Mills Act, the ability to make renovations is severely restricted to the point where it could be pretty difficult to adapt it to something modern.
We wouldn't want that though, right, Kevin? I mean, isn't that the objective? I mean, you're saying something modern, but isn't the objective
we're going to want
of
some flexibility for buildings in the future. I'll give an example, a real example that did occur, that occurred just before I got here. The Bank of Italy building, it's not Bank of Italy, well, it is the original Bank of Italy. B of A. They cut in for an ATM machine without any permits. And it violated the historical rules from the Cultural Heritage Commission. Ultimately, that was removed, but the damage has been done. That building, the architect was Martin and Martin, world famous. And so they weren't allowed an ATM machine or any improvements to the exterior. And for, let's say, Patterson Hardware, if they wanted to renovate the exterior and still make it look historical, it might be so restrictive that the future owner can't do anything. It might be too expensive or cost prohibitive. We can still make it look old, and like we're doing today, without a Mills Act.
What about the interior, Kevin? Would they be able to put in say a kitchen and drains?
They can make those types of improvements. They just will need to follow the Mills Act, and it could be just restrictive. Already, I'm telling people, hey, you've got to meet ADA. You got to bring up the electrical, plumbing, and all of those things. And I'm hearing from the property owners
But Kevin, there's no requirement to follow the Mills Act. It's entirely up to the owner.
Them. So if one of the property owners pursued the Mills Act, then they'd have to. You're right.
So it's not like the city is forcing the Mills Act on anybody.
Only if they
have to voluntarily. The owner has to voluntarily. Right. They have to voluntarily say, I want to apply for a contract for this, and they have to put out, as we said, all the money up front.
Right.
So it sounds to me like, I mean, if they're putting out all this money, they're going to know what they're getting into.
Yeah. Hopefully they do their due diligence.
Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't we want to give that option to a potential owner? Or an owner that already exists?
Just because of flexibility. The buildings are old, they need to be updated, and sometimes we can put a material that's modern and still old looking, but with the Mills Act, we have to use actual old material.
And just to add into that, again, this is, if you have an owner and they were to get into that, they'd be in a 10-year contract, and that's a binding contract. So let's say 4 years into it or something, there was a change. Is the contract void per change in ownership? Or let's say the same owner wants to pivot. They have a leasee that wants to do something different. They're still bound to.
I think so, but
Okay.
you're right. I mean, they select to do that to themselves, and we didn't impose that on them. But it could be burdensome.
Yeah,
Do you see it as a potential deterrent then? I mean,
I
that's what I hear
do.
you saying. Yeah. Well, but as our council member on the end here indicated, it's optional though. So if someone wanted to move in and not apply for the Wills Act, then no harm, no
Choose
foul.
not to. Right.
maybe you can speak to Kevin or Erica about the lift of the city in terms of resources. I think you mentioned most of this would be a lot upfront time to get this going before handing it off to
So the planning
county.
department would take the lead. The application would come to the planning department and would make sure all the information's collected, and then we just defer all of it to the Cultural Heritage Commission. I've had to work with them before on landmarks, and I just defer everything to them. They do all the work, and then they tell me the conclusion. But that takes a little bit of time, but really who's doing all the work is the Cultural Heritage Commission.
That's correct, after we amend the contract with them, if that's the direction that's taken, and a new fee schedule is adopted.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you guys saw in your email, but we recently got some attaboys. The Fillmore Historical Society was recognized for their great work that they were doing. So, I don't know, to me, it seems like Fillmore, there's a theme here of, appreciating our history. And, I know, Kevin, it sounds like you're very opposed to it, especially based on what I saw on the staff report, that it meets none of the council's goals. That was kind of showing your hand quite a bit. But I think we as a community value the historic nature of our town, and that's evident if you look behind us, if you look downtown, if you look at some of the homes in town, and I don't see that there's a negative to giving an option, not something we're twisting people's arms for. It's just an option for an owner to go into a contract if they want. Because all I'm hearing from you, Kevin, is no, this is bad, and if we do this, it's going to create all kinds of problems. But I don't see that.
Yeah.
Speak to that too. I've worked in cities that have Mills Acts, and it was Palm Springs, and so there were a bunch of people that had, the mid-century modern, and every year we would get people mad that they wanted to sell their house, but no one would buy it because they had the Mills Act contract, or they needed a new roof and it was going to cost 3 times what a new roof should cost because of the materials, or more, or different things like that. But then they didn't want to pay the penalties to get out of it either.
Well, again, it's their.
Yelling at us,
Yeah.
My office would have facilitated the contract. There were plenty of people there who just elected to go with the historical designation and not part of the Mills Act, and they seem to have an easier go of it. So I think you can, honor and celebrate the history and preserve it without the extra layer of the Mills Act, which, as the mayor pointed out, does require staff to put together like a whole new program and implement a lot when we don't even really know anyone at all who would do it.
Well, that raises a question then. What exactly is a historical designation? How does, would a resident go about doing that?
Well, well, that's the first step in this
Mhm.
process.
And then end it there without, I guess I'm
And you can
confused.
get that, and you can get your plaque, and you can, I mean, Kevin probably knows more about it.
Yeah, the building has to be a minimum 50 years old. That's not very old, by the way. and then a significant historical event would need to be there, or the building's done by a prominent architect, nationally recognized architect, or the design is so exquisite. There's about 3 or 4 categories similar to that before they designate a landmark.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah.
So just back to what the city attorney said. I'm going to pick at that a little bit. So how many total buildings you said Palm Springs? How many total buildings or contracts do you have in Palm Springs, if you don't mind me asking?
I mean, I haven't worked there in a long time, so I don't know how many they have now, and I had never had like a count of the number, so I couldn't give an estimate on how many people had regrets, but there were a couple a year. I mean, you know, it's a much bigger city than here, obviously, and a lot of it was that mid-century modern and would qualify. At that time, not much had been gentrified, but yes, I can't really say what percentage of it that had regrets, but there were definitely a couple every year.
Yeah, the reason I asked that question was in the staff report, I mean, if you note, Oxnard has 10. For a city the size of Oxnard to have 10 contracts. And then Ventura, which is a little bit smaller, they have 47, but they also probably have more historic homes, more historic buildings. Did they mention anything about that?
They
Did
actually
Ventura?
do, because Manuel and I got curious about it, and we looked at when the city of Ventura had been incorporated. So they're incorporated, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's a much older city, so they have more properties.
Right.
And so hence they have more people applying for it, and their economics also are very different than Oxnard's.
Right.
And so that's why they're getting more people restoring their properties.
Sure.
But like the county did indicate, they get 2 applications, if anything, a year.
Okay. So again, I just don't see where, if we adopt it, it's going to cause a problem. If we're anticipating the entire county, including the city of Ventura and the city of Oxnard, our piddly little 3,600 homes, how many of those are potentially historic? It's going to cause this tidal wave of staff, concerns. I don't know. It just seems like, again, you were tipping your hand a little bit there, Kevin, but.
Well, my opinion on it is it does create a program that we're, obviously this is very proactive. This would Fillmore be very proactive to create a program, to make an arrangement with the county. If there were property owners now, they're downtown or residentials, and it would require almost, if we're going to create a program, who wants to join the Mills Act? That's what I would think that we would want to do. Mm-hmm. And again, like you said, it is optional. You do not know if there's going to be
even one.
That's
true.
So my opinion at this point in time, and taking what both Tiffany and Kevin said, is that there are methods that are going on, like just Santa Paula, for example, too, on preserving different things downtown. Doesn't happen to have a Mills Act contract. To support, to support maintaining our cultural identity without the creation of something where we do not have a demand for it as yet. And maybe folks listening to this council meeting will start, emailing and calling us and saying, oh, wow, didn't go there. But at this point in time, just not seeing that, that drive, I like that we have this information with it. I appreciate the staff report. I'd like to do for myself a receive and file, and just know that we know about the Mills Act now. We have the information. We've done research. Thank you to staff. and just see if we hear maybe in the future of any business or property owner who is so interested.
Sure.
And maybe they'll talk amongst themselves and want to, say, let's get together and try and pursue this and push the city to do it. But at this point, I just say that we have this information. It's great to know, but I'm not for the creation of this new program for the city just as yet. That's my 2 cents.
And honestly, the place that I think it, at least from the analyses that I saw, that it had the most applicability was actually, I was thinking the commercial downtown area, because if you look at how it's structured and the looking at rents, looking at the commercial value of the property, it just seems more like targeted towards that kind of a downtown, at least for us, as opposed to I don't think someone up on on B Street, or I'm sorry, up on Central Avenue is going to look at it and say, maybe I'll rent this place out and and see if I can get a tax discount on it.
Okay, all right. If no one has anything more to add, this is we have a recommendation is basically staff is seeking direction. Alternatives are we could either direct staff to develop something or to take no action, and entertain I guess motion, or does anyone just want to? I'm proposing to take no action.
I mean, I'd like to hear from. I haven't heard from Albert. I'd like to hear his opinion on it.
Okay, let's go. All right, Albert.
And Carrie, yeah.
I'm in favor of it. I like it. I want to give our residents a choice. Maybe there are some, and there are people out there that enjoy going to communities, and they, maybe it's not a huge volume, but people they see the historic buildings in that town. The tourists that go by. There are some. I don't know how many, but I know there's people like that. And I follow some of them. Like Oxnard has some cool ones. Ventura does, and whenever I'm there, I don't go out of my way. But whenever I'm there, I will go by and look at the house and admire the architecture and look at it. But I would be in favor of it. So yes.
Carrie, what do you think? Because you haven't really said much other than questions.
I'm on the fence. I like the idea. I'm concerned about staff time, and wondering, the question popped into my head is that, let's say we implement this, and 3 years down the road we've had 2 residents apply for the program and become historical landmarks under the Mills Act. But we find even just with the 2 applicants that maybe it was too cumbersome and too expensive for city staff time and dollars. Could we then just bail out of the program? And we'd have 2 existing and then not have any additional ones.
No, we would cease offering the Mills Act contracts.
Yeah, correct. Can we do that?
We would probably have to amend the contract at that point with the county and then have language in the contract that would allow us to do that, because we would still be responsible for having a contract in place for the 10 years that those 2 properties, have seek the designation for.
Well, once they, maybe I don't have a complete understanding here, but once they become historical landmark under the Mills Act, and that's all said and done, what is the city having to do after that point?
Well, the county's administering the program on behalf of the city, but we're receiving the information from the county, so every time there's an inspection, they will provide that information back to the county.
So we're still involved.
Correct. Anytime there's a fee associated, the county will bill us and we have to pay the bill.
Right. So do you have an idea what the duration of a contract with the county would be?
Well, the designation lasts 10 years, so we would have to have a county, a contract with the county for a minimum of 10 years for the designation.
Right.
That's if somebody.
Right.
We haven't gotten to the specifics of trying to negotiate the contract either, because I didn't want to spend more time, going back and forth or giving the county false hope that we were going to move in that direction until I received direction from you.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. All right. Well, if you don't have anyone making motions, and then it is a take no action. Do we have anyone making motions? I don't hear anyone.
This is a wishy-washy group tonight.
Okay.
Well, if we don't have support, it doesn't make sense. I mean, anyone can count, right? So,
I'll move that the city council allow individual property owners to apply for the Mills Act contracts without it. Wait. So, Erica, help me out. Which one is the one where the county's going to do?
It would be the alternative number one, so you would vote to.
Then I would move to allow city council to direct staff to develop and implement a formal Mills Act for the city.
Okay,
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. Okay. All those in favor of this motion say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? I'm a no. All right, motion carries 3-1. All right. Okay.
got a decision.
All right. Good. And good discussion. Okay. Let's see, folks. We're moving on to the next agenda item, and that is the last one here of our business items, 9J. This is a public hearing, ordinance number 25-985, granting a non-exclusive franchise to Crimson Pipeline LP for existing hydrocarbon pipeline.
I'll be presenting this one, Mayor, and I'll make it short and sweet since it's our last public item. And you'll recall this item was introduced in March, at which time the council adopted a resolution of intention to move forward with this new 15-year franchise because the prior pipeline franchise was expiring. So as required by state law, we're here to conduct a public hearing to see if there are any protests, and if there are protests, the council considers those protests and whether that means there shouldn't be a franchise granted. So to cut to the chase, it's a 15-year contract. Most of the terms are set by the Public Utilities Code, and we don't really have discretion if we're going to grant the ordinance. So it's a very standard ordinance franchise. It's virtually the same as what was in place for the last 15 years, with I think some updated insurance requirements that was authorized by state law. I know the representative from Crimson's here again tonight. If you have any questions, it doesn't look like we have any members of the public, but Mayor, please check and then let me know if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Tiffany. All right, so that being said, I will open, right, am I saying this? I'm going to conduct a public hearing, open up a public hearing to entertain all written protests received by the city clerk up to this point in time of the hearing, and consider whether any or all such protests are sufficient. And city clerk, have we received any?
No protests. Mayor.
Okay, no protests, and I have no speakers on this agenda item, just checking. Okay, at this point now, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion. If there's any council questions or discussion.
None for me.
Okay, none for me as well. Okay, I'll then entertain a motion then on this item.
I'd like to move we introduce the first reading of ordinance number 25-9585, an ordinance granting Crimson Pipeline LP, a California limited partnership known as Crimson, a non-exclusive franchise to contract, erect, maintain, operate, repair, renew, change the size of, and remove certain pipeline for the transmission, collection, transportation, and distribution of oil, gas, and water or other hydrocarbons.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here also. It's been long meetings that we have this on the agenda. All right. We are now done with our business items on our agenda. We move on to our next item, which is our city manager's report.
Thank you. Just want to remind the council and the public that June and July are what we consider dark months. So that means that we only have one meeting each month, which is the first meeting. So there will only be a meeting on June 10th and June 9th. And then I also want to welcome...
I'm sorry, I meant July 9th.
Yes, July 9th. Sorry, it's late. And I want to welcome Chief Garola. He's going to give a quick update on the efforts that the city has been bringing forward for weed abatement.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, staff. Just a quick update, again, very quick here, on where we're at with our weed abatement process. So every year, the end of April, 1st of May, our engine companies will drive the city. It's divided up into 3 sectors for the 3 different shifts. They'll drive the areas and they'll identify potential parcels that may have a fire hazard. After they've identified them, then we have a new app working through Esri where they can just drop a pin, identify what the hazard is. The hazard, well, first of all, let me, I guess, better identify what we call a hazard. So a hazard, a fire hazard to one person may be totally different to somebody else. Typically, we don't look at overgrown lawns. We don't look at front yards that have a few weeds as being a fire hazard. It may be a nuisance. It may not look good. It may be upsetting to neighbors where somebody hasn't mowed their lawn for a month or so. But until it becomes dry and flammable, then it's really not a fire hazard. And that's one part of the program. It is not a beautification program. It is designed for fire hazard. So it's tough as our fire engines are driving around the city trying to determine what's a fire hazard right now and or what may be a fire hazard in 2 or 3 weeks from now. So letters have been sent out. The first batch have been sent out, a couple hundred. And somebody may receive one, and they may look at their neighbor's yard, and they may say, why did I receive one and my neighbor hasn't? So it is, it's very objective. It's not subjective, but it's very objective. Again, we do look at the height, overall height of the weeds. And if a yard is predominantly filled with grass that's drying or weeds that are drying, they're probably above 10 inches and take up probably more than a third of the yard, then they'll get a cursory notice. There's, again, in reviewing some of the properties that were identified, we probably removed close to a quarter of them that may have been just somebody just hasn't mowed their lawn. So that's kind of what a nutshell of this portion is. Now, there's a lot of vacant lots. You drive around town, they're full of weeds and they're drying out. All those parcels will get notices. As we get closer to the outskirts of town, whether it's the hills to the north or some of the rivers surrounding us, then we'll look a little bit closer as to the degree of how much coverage of the weeds are. There's 4 different areas that we identify as far as a type of cleaning that needs to take place. The most common is the standard. It's the house that has the more than more than their share of the weeds in the yard, and that's just a standard letter. We issue that. For most cases, once the letter is received, most of those weeds are taken care of in the first couple weeks. It's fairly easy to do for most property owners. Standard. The next one is we have larger lots, like the vacant lots, where they'll need a tractor. And we identify it as a tractor lot. They'll bring a tractor in, but we also stipulate that they have to go in with weed eaters or whatever and do the perimeters. Because just the middle of the lot's done, they still have to secure the perimeter. They could go up against a neighbor's fence. And then the third one is what we call 100 foot from property line. There aren't too many of those. Those are primarily at the upper end of the city that border the wildland area. And instead of going 100 foot from each house, the line would look like this, and a big fire coming in, it would be hard to be able to control a big fire as opposed to 100 foot from the property line. So you'll see a lot of pictures with fires coming into towns where they have a clean 100-foot line of demarcation. Then the last one is what I call special. There's something particular about that parcel that will require a special letter written by me to identify all the specifics of it. So for the most part, 90% of our letters are standard, and then probably another 8% are the tractor, and then the remaining 2% or so are special. So anyways, the letters have gone out, the initial flush. I'm sure we've missed a few. We'll be catching some more. The intent is to have all majority of the parcels done prior towards the end of June. And when we start fireworks sales, we want to make sure that most of the weed abatement is done by then. This is actually a year-round program, but we pretty much put emphasis on it right now, early June, and then also in the fall we'll make another push with the onset of the Santa Ana winds. So that's where we're at.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Lastly, I just want to share that this will be my last council meeting for a little while, as I will be starting maternity leave effective May 31st. I do want to appreciate my sincere appreciation and thank the council for your support during this transition. My husband and I are very excited. And also thank the executive team, because I have full trust that they will continue the operations of the city and staff. And so the city will be in great hands. I will be looking forward to return. I will make sure to send all of you pictures once my baby is born. And I look forward to continuing servicing the community in great excellence. So thank you, council, and thank you, staff, as well.
Thank you, Erica. Congratulations. We are so over the moon excited for you and for your husband. And the city is in great hands, and your hands will be very full. Lots of love. Wishing you all the best in your maternity leave and health. Wonderful health. Thank you. Okay. And with that, we now move actually into closed session. We have, let me pull it up here. We have, increase my font. We do have one closed session item, conference with the real property negotiator. The City Council will conduct a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8 to enable the City Council to consider negotiations and to give direction to its negotiations regarding certain real property, 364 Santa Clara Avenue. All right, thank you. Move into closed session now. Right. We are good to go. Okay, so council has now, we are resuming after our closed session. We're back on regular session. Council met, and we have no reportable action from our closed session. And at this point, we're at our adjournment, and I will adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting at 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, June 10th here at City Hall. Thank you. Have a great night.